Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Manlius Town Board meeting for June 26, 2024 at roughly 6:30 p.m. As always, we are virtual and remote. We run our meetings via Zoom here. We make sure that the Zoom is available. Instructions to join there is at the top of each of our agendas to take part in the meeting. We're also streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and to our own website. So if you have any questions, like I said, check out the top of each of the agendas. And next up, I would like to ask Councilor Gonzalez to bring the lead to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So next up, we do have open podium. So just to be clear, anyone who's here for either the Skyridge Water District public hearing or the proposed purchase agreement, we'll have you speak during the public hearing section. So I guess, I know some people have signed up, but just a show of hands, is anybody, so other than the Skyridge Water District public hearing or the purchase property, does anybody have anything else, just show of hands for open vote?
I'm Steve Benson, resident of Manlius. The last 2 years, my assessed value for my house has gone up over 25%. No property improvements. Look at what's going on in terms of the agenda tonight in that light. Because on the agenda, there are, I'm not going to talk specifically about it so that I don't get pushed off the podium. There are 2 items that could very easily go well over $50 million for this town. I won't even mention their names.
Well, I think I can guess the purchase.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us what the
And
other
the
item
pool.
is? Oh, fair enough, okay.
Cool, and the purchase. So I just want to put that in front of what I believe is some rational exuberance about the state of the economy. Because I've never seen anything like that raise. And all the time I've lived in this town with my parents and so forth, it's just astounding. So that said, the other thing is I would appreciate it if you would be able to tell us whether or not you are heading down the path to put in place the ethics committee.
I can respond to that. So we have identified individuals to serve on the ethics committee. We are planning to meet with them within, probably before the next meeting, and we will have something to do in July 10th.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Karpinski, Manlius, New York. I have 2 questions. One was about the ethics committee. I was just wondering what the status was and if there's been any further discussion, among the council members. Do you have a meeting coming up, in regard to?
Yeah, we're going to have an organizational meeting. We will have to appoint the members at a July meeting, have an organizational meeting with the people, publicize what the terms and conditions are of the ethics committee. All of that will happen over the summer.
And then my second question, John, at the June 12th meeting, you announced the appointment of a development planning committee. What is the charge to that committee? Who are the members? When will the committee meet? And will meetings be posted on the town website?
So the intent, yes, to follow a meeting clause, we do these meetings. I can't speak to everyone. Once we get confirmation of who will be attending, we'll be able to post that list, but let's see, it starts with members of the town board, the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, the fire department of whatever project we're discussing will be invited, the school district, wherever the project decided, will be invited. Our planning officers, police, I'm trying to think if there was anyone. Yeah, and then generally what this is for when these bigger projects, these PUDs come through. What we found is through the PUD process, different meetings with some of the members of the planning board to have these discussions. And then what we found is as you get further along in citing these projects, then they're reaching out to fire, they're reaching out to police, they're reaching out to all these different agencies. And our goal was to get it so the committee will be not voting on anything. There's no binding authority to the committee. The goal is to just have all of the people that are gonna be involved throughout the development process of whatever project is in front of the board, in that committee in particular, to give feedback. So rather than us having 3 meetings and then bringing in the fire chief who's gonna say, hey, you need another access road around here, the goal is to get everybody together to kind of understand the project and then give that feedback so that as that developer comes back to the town board and then the planning board, that they've already received all that feedback in the hopes of making it so that when we are considering projects here or at the planning board, is that they're just kind of further along the process and have had the opportunity to speak with relevant agencies to get that feedback. So it's, ideally streamline the process a little bit, make it so that people aren't bouncing from meeting to meeting to go talk to different agencies. And overall, just make sure that everybody who throughout the whole process is able to weigh in early on and save the developer some time and headaches.
And you'll be providing us with more information about that as that, becomes actionable.
I think there's a sheet on it already.
I don't know, we definitely don't have a town page, so we definitely have to make a town page, I'll make a note of that. But the agenda's posted, they'll be available for everybody, we'll be here, it's likely these meetings will happen during the day, just due to everyone's schedules. And they'll be recorded, they'll be posted to the website, to YouTube and everything, so everyone will be able to follow along. And again, the committee doesn't take any action, the committee is just giving feedback to the developer, so that as they go through the zoning and the planning board process, that they've got as much information ahead of them.
Okay, thanks, John.
Anyone else from the podium?
Sure.
Okay. So we are gonna move item number 4, the community pool contract to the after the public hearing for speeding and safety. So first up, we have the public hearing to consider dissolving the Skyward Water District extension number 1.
So let's make a motion to waive the reading. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So the purpose of this resolution is if you have been following, which many of you may not have, but I know some of you have been following. The last year, there was a proposal to run public water up Salt Springs Road to supply water to Clear Path for Veterans and the Horseshoe Lane neighborhood. That failed, but in the process of preparing for that, we added the Clear Path for Veterans site to the Skyridge Water District. Since that's not going to happen, the purpose of this action today is to take the Clear Path for Veterans site out of the Skyridge Water District so they can move ahead with the repairs to their water system that they need to do. So it's basically simply reversing an action that was taken last year. Nothing happened between the vote last year and now. We're just reversing that decision. So that is what the nature of this action is. If anyone would like to speak to that, I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing, let you do that. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So show of hands, anybody would like to speak on the Skyward Water? Come on up.
Again, I'm Mary Karpinski and I live on Salt Springs Road. My prepared statement. Since 2016, residents of 29 homes on Horseshoe Lane had petitioned the Manlius Town Council to fix the water system that serves the tract. There are 4 options proposed, including repairing the existing system. The most expensive and contested options was a 6-mile water pipeline to be installed on Salt Springs Road. Repairs to Horseshoe Lane were held up for years, primarily due to the lobbying efforts of Clear Path at Skyridge LLC and Clear Path for Veterans supported the pipeline option that would cost the community $13.7 million to provide public water to a population of 40. In 2023, Novella Engineering prepared a report to the Town Council that would support adding properties owned by Clear Path at Skyridge to the Skyridge Water District. Clear Path for Veterans rents facilities from the LLC and does not own property. The Novella report states, it is our understanding that the primary need for this project is to provide public water service to Clear Path for Veterans site located in the town of Sullivan, Secondary, it is our understanding that 29 residents within the Skyridge Water District have expressed concerns regarding their water system and water quality and have requested to benefit from this project. After 8 years of waiting, Horseshoe Lane residents will finally have their water system. The town council has solicited bids and approved a proposal submitted by Miller Engineering for $315,000. The town is eligible to receive up to $2 million in grant funding to the Skyridge Water District from the Durham Authority of the State of New York to cover costs. How much of this funding will the town actually receive? Numerous studies were conducted to assess the feasibility of the pipeline option. 3 engineering firms were contracted with: Miller Engineering, Bella Engineering, and Barton and Judas Engineering, which did the primary research on the pipeline option and wrote grant proposals for the town. How much do town officials pay engineering firms for these studies? Who will pay the cost? Will the Skyridge Water District and Extension 1, the privately owned Clear Path at Skyridge LLC properties be built? Will the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York provide retroactive payment for planning costs associated with the Skyridge Water District? Did the town's affiliation with Clear Path and Skyridge LLC, the Clear Path for Veterans, violate New York State Constitution, Article 8, Section 1, that prohibits towns from making gifts or loans of any money or property in aid to any individual, private corporation, or association?
So, I will not answer those questions now, but I will research that and some.
Thank you, Sarah.
Do we have a copy of your statement?
Yes, and in fact, I do have a copy of it from the Bella report too, so you can check that out.
If you want to leave that with the clerk, that would be fine.
Anyone else for this talk here? Okay, and we've got a comment for you.
This is submitted by Erin Trojan. The residents of the Skyridge Water Supply District are appreciative of the town's efforts in trying to secure a connection to the larger municipal public water system. This includes expanding the district to encompass Clear Path for Veterans, our direct neighbor, in hopes of reaching more funding sources as well as helping Clear Path solve their water supply issues. Since that pursuant has failed, it is appropriate for the district boundary to be restored to the original size in order for us to move forward with updating our system. On behalf of the residents of the district, I support the town moving to reverse the district extension. Thank you, Erin Trojan.
Any other comments? Before we close, I'll say, so, we do have a $2 million, DASNY grant that, will be used to pay for all of the costs associated with this. Any additional costs are gonna come straight out of the Skyridge Water District, so those 29 parcels would be paying for everything outside of whatever's funded by the grant. We kind of looked at it, when we had a initial meeting about the project with Miller Engineering earlier this week. In order to keep the cost to where it needs to be legally per the comptroller, I think at best, the district would be able to, borrow maybe $300,000 to pay back. So really what it's gonna come down to is working with Miller Engineering to keep the cost of that to within as much of the bond as possible. And keep that cost minimal, but all of the costs, with the Skyridge Water Project, everything that's been bid out, is all being paid 100% by the district. So it's not paid by anyone else other than the folks that are in the district.
It's a grant,
Well, there's a potential that the district might be needing
They might
bond,
not later.
but that bond will be the responsibility of the district to pay that down. That's it. And just as a reminder, the reason that the larger project didn't go through is the WIA grant that was provided the vast majority of the funding. We weren't awarded that grant, so we went back to, I guess, Plan C. Okay, just one last call for questions, comments. Anyone online? Please use the raise hand function.
Okay. I would take motion close the public
All in favor? Okay. Opposed? Okay.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution to adopt an order dissolving the Skyridge Water District Extension number 1, resulting in the diminution of the Skyridge Water District.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so next up, we have a public hearing, for the proposed purchase agreement with Twin Shores Property LLC for the parcels located at 424 and 5430 Burdick Street North, in town of Manlius, County of Onondaga. So we have received quite a number of questions, so my goal here is to kind of walk through and answer a number of those questions. So, there's some questions about the purchase price according to the assessed value. So what we did was we did look at a number of other purchases that were made within the town. Some of the other sites that were considered by the town originally, what you'll see is on North Burdick Street, there was a property that sold for 16 times its assessed value. That was a property that we were interested in, but is not available now. In particular, there's a couple of, like, for example, the Twin Pond site that is north of where we're looking at right now on Burdick Street. The assessed value, I believe, was $227,000. The purchase of Twin Ponds was made at $4 million. And so what I think is important here is even when you're selling your home, generally speaking, the conversation we have about assessments is if you would sell your home and expect to get more than your assessed value, the assessment's probably, it's at least not too high. And so we've seen it many times with many sales of homes here where people are paying easily double the assessed value of these properties. And so just to clear that up, the assessed value is the assessed value of it currently and what it could sell on the open market. In this instance, as we've seen with lots of other commercial real estate within the town, the purchase price is set by the seller, and it's up to this board to determine whether or not that is the value that is worth paying. In addition to kind of go over, we have been looking at a number of other sites that would work, that would be a little less, or a little easier to develop on. So you'll notice in the 2018 feasibility study, which just to make sure everybody knows, that study has a wealth of information. It goes over pretty much everything we covered in the presentation about efficiencies of current facilities. It goes over the space that's needed for all of the programming within municipal facilities. It includes a construction quote, which at the time was 18 million, which included land acquisition, and it also has a detailed site analysis of all the different sites that are available. So one of the important things to look at there is that there's a site there on North Burdick Street. Not an ideal site, it's still wet, but it was something that could be considered. In 2018, the purchase price for that property was $500,000. I will say I wish the town had acted at that point and bought that piece of property. I think it was very reasonably priced. But when we engaged with the current the person who's control of the site and tried to work on some type of agreement to make that site work, what we ended up with was a lease that over the course of 20 years would cost the town $12 million, and we would not have ownership of the site. It was strictly a land lease on that piece of property. And that was after a pretty serious negotiation about trying to get that to a place that we could work with. There's also, we worked with Core over at Town Center, and they had a similar site that would require demolition. But basically the purchase price started about twice as much as the 2.8 million for this site. And again, that required demolition. That when it was already a cleared site, it wasn't any drainage concerns. And trying to think of any of the other properties, we did look at a couple of properties that were between 2 and 3 acres up on 290. And really when we engaged with them right off the bat, so a 2.55 acre parcel, it's currently zoned commercial A. Which even, it's not ideally located, it's not big enough for the project. The starting price there was $1 million for a piece of property that I believe is assessed at about $300,000. So just trying to relate that we have looked at many, many sites, and the reason this site becomes the one that is a serious contender is because of the location and the many benefits of being able to centrally locate all of our services. The addition of 62 acres of wetlands that are essentially going to be protected by the town moving forward, in addition to it being the most competitive price. And so, as we were kind of looking at some numbers today, even if the cost of the project almost doubled from 2018 to say $30 million, we wanted to get an understanding of what does that mean to the taxpayer, like what is that actually, what's the actual impact? And so we were looking at the budget today, and just as a way of kind of making the numbers make sense is, So in the 2024 budget, town hall services were a total of $4,144,000. And so the debt service on 30 million at the rate and terms that we're currently looking at would be about $2.2 million per year. So about half, maybe 55–60% of what the entire operation of town hall services costs. Understanding that also removes the need to pay $100,000 a year for renting out the police facility, in addition to the anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 we put into that facility to keep it operating every year. Those costs are escalating. So it's important to remember that this is not, what was the analogy I came up with before? It's not like the town is sitting here saying, should we buy a recreational vehicle or a camper or a brand new car or a second car? We are looking at right now maintaining a 50-year-old car, and we're considering the best possible value to move forward, to maintain the services that we require, and to do it in a way that enhances the town and the ability for the residents to enjoy things like Limestone Creek, going up to the canal, a lot of different good things there. So we really wanted to just try to add a little bit of context. Again, so for if your house is assessed at about $260,000, the tax implication of this project over 20 years is going to be about $120 a year on your taxes. That being said, probably in 1999 and in 2018, what probably should have happened is the capital reserve fund should have been set up so that we could have started collecting money to pay for these projects. Because again, the building was expanded in the 1980s. And even then, the HVAC system probably needed some work, and we've done everything we can to maintain this. So there's a lot to this. It's not a do we or don't we, and it's not do we spend money or not spend money. It's the question of do we spend money on a new facility that will follow all of the ADA laws, all the environmental laws, and all things like that. A facility that's going to give us a police department that fits the town of Manlius Police Department, not a reused building that, quite honestly, provides a little bit of danger to our officers each and every day. Are we going to essentially locate the police department to bring equity to response times, especially as we look and specialists in policing are needed more and more, and when sergeants need to leave the station and actually go respond to a call. Right now, our folks up in Minoa and Kirkville are going to wait about 15 to 19 minutes, depending on traffic, for those responses. At the new facility, you'd see a more even distribution of response times, where they think the max would be in about 11 minutes there. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for this to work out. And I know, Ingrid, did you want to give us a little update on some of the changes to the purchase agreement?
Yeah, so we are also going through a due diligence process with 3 contractors who are providing us their estimate on what would it take to bring this building up to speed in terms of making it ADA compliant, putting in an elevator, addressing the HVAC system, which is outdated and has been held together with, Band-Aids and a glue gun, and additional office space for the expanded staff that we've seen over the last 40 years. So we are getting estimates from 3 different contractors taking a look at that. What that does not address is the need for acreage for the police department, which has a fleet of 100 cars, and that requires additional acreage. So whether it makes sense to have 1 or 2 properties is a big question in terms of expenses. So we wanted to communicate that we are going through this process and looking at that and comparing, and that information will be shared in a subsequent meeting as soon as we have that from these providers.
At the same time, we did receive some due diligence docs from the sellers. We're very thankful that they reached out with those ahead of time. The town engineer is looking at that to just confirm everything we know about the site to make sure that we know it's going to work for the facility that is prescribed in the feasibility studies. In addition, we did go back. The due diligence period has been expanded to 90 days. So what that means is that the intent of this board is to consider this agreement on July 10th. That would mean that by it's the October 9th meeting, that would be the last date for us to pull out of that agreement. That is part of the stipulation, is that if the board approves that purchase agreement, we do have that due diligence period for any reason. If it's not gonna make financial sense, if the site's not gonna work for what we need, if there's any kind of new information that comes through that time, which again, we have multiple engineers that are gonna be looking at this, we can back away at any time with no cost to the residents of the town at all. Trying to think if there's any other. Yeah, the donation of the property is involved into a separate agreement. And then also too, there was a stipulation in the purchase agreement, that the town would be, held to begin development on the second in a year. We've changed the way that works. We're gonna send them a letter of intent of what we would be planning to doing, so that they know where they're at, 'cause they do have, the seller does have 2 adjacent parcels that they are concerned about getting developed. So with that, any other comments from the board?
If I could just interrupt for a moment, does anyone need a chair who doesn't have a chair? Or is anyone standing on the wall in need of a place to sit? Just wanna make sure that no one will definitely need to sit down, but you can have that chair. You can sit up here, whatever, not stand.
So we have our recreation department here, if they could just come, give us a little bit of information.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peggy Kenyon. I am the Town of Manlius Recreation Director, and I've worked for the Town Recreation Department for 29 years. In those 29 years, we've always wished for a space or park that is owned by the town. The town does not own any space or parks that we use. We're fortunate to have great parks within our town and that we do use. We have 2 school districts with fields and gym space, but some of that school space comes with a fee. And school programming always takes precedence, as it should. With the community room, which is part of this proposal, we would be able to offer more senior and adult programming. We often have instructors reach out with ideas for programming. We aren't able to find a space for them. A community room would also give us the opportunity to rent that space to town residents, and space that they're considering is actually a very pretty spot. So you could have family reunions, showers. That's another benefit to this whole thing. We used to have a program called Sports Talks. I don't know if any of you in the audience recall that, where we have lunch and.
Hey, if you could just speak up a little bit.
Okay. We used to have programs called Sports Talks that offered lunch and a local sports figure or coach that would talk to attendees about their experiences and stories. I don't know if any of you recall that. We'd love to start that kind of thing back up. We also have a staff member right now who's run a program for adults with learning disabilities that exposes them to recreation while also giving them the opportunity to learn and practice life skills. She would love to start a group here in the town, and having the space to meet and take field trips from would be the jump start that's needed. I've also seen that there's a possibility of having a park down the road. For me, that would be a dream come true. I personally feel that parks and gathering spaces for residents are what makes a town grow and thrive. The sense of belonging, camaraderie, and community are so important for mental health and wellness. I don't see how it can be a negative. Communing with nature and sharing common interests outdoors is always going to be something that has positive outcomes. I've witnessed this for 33 years in the recreation profession. I would also like to speak for a moment as an individual who works at this town hall, not necessarily being a recreation employee. I understand there's going to be different opinions and opposition on this. I feel whenever you have 2 sides for different feelings, it's important for both of us to have empathy. Put yourself in the other's shoes. I have empathy for all of you. I understand it's a lot of money. I understand costs are rising. I understand all of that, but I do believe that the positives outweigh maybe the $10 per month more that your taxes will be for the average home. I'm asking for some empathy for this side as well. Every time I have to tell a resident who's parked behind the building, stops in our office looking for one of the offices up here, how are you with stairs? Are you okay? Or do you need to walk back out to your car? I mean, it's just crazy that in this day and age, I have to say that so often. We should have an ADA accessible building. We always ask, can we run up and do it for you? Is it something we can do for you? But usually if they've made the effort to come here themselves, they wanna do business themselves. They wanna do it in person.
So like you're saying that they have to get back in their car. and
They either
drive
have to
around
go back to their car, drive around front, or they come upstairs and then they have to come back downstairs to get to their car. And I just feel terrible every time. 90% of the time, they are elderly, and honestly, most of the time, they wanna get a handicap sticker. So here I'm saying someone who needs a handicap tag. Sorry, there's no elevator, there's no easy way to get where you need to be. This is a problem. We've been talking about needing a new town hall for over 15 years. I've been here for 29, and it's been a long time. All the boards have been talking about this. The last thing I wanna say is at our conferences, our recreation conferences, they do community surveys all the time. As much as we'd like to see recreation be the top thing on everyone's list, we're always second to safety and security in your home. This town has a top-notch police force. One of the #1 reasons for this building is they have a police force in the building with the courts in a central location of the town. I know others have talked about the reasons it's necessary, so I'm not gonna go into it, but if for no other reason than to keep the town safe as it can be, to be sure our police and courts can operate to their best ability, sorry, I feel this new town hall is necessary. Thank you.
Comments from the board before we open this up?
Building period gives us some strictly access to the.
Yep.
Whatnot.
Well, that's part of a deal like this is that generally speaking, once the deal is signed and the due diligence period begins, that's when the buyer has access to the site to look at it, go through municipal approvals. One nice thing is we are municipalities, we don't have to seek municipal approvals. But like I said, the seller has been very gracious to send us all of that documentation ahead of time. And we do have access to the site when the engineers are ready to look at them. So that, in that 90-day period, that's the due diligence period to make sure that everything's gonna make sense. It's gonna be something that we can afford, it's gonna be something that's gonna make sense. And that, logistically speaking, it's a project that can happen. And if anything, for any reason, gives this board an idea that it's not gonna make sense, or it's gonna be too expensive, or whatever it is, we do have the ability to leave that up until that October date. So, with that, for a motion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yeah, so what we'll do, I think the part of the site is we just kind of want to like maybe move up from the back and then we'll go row by row, just so we can make sure everybody gets an opportunity. So anybody back there in the hallway, would like to come up first? Yeah. Walk in there.
3 minutes.
Yep.
Don't start counting yet. Yeah, I know. Oh, that's good to be back. Good to be here this evening, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board. I'm at Theobald, with the 204 East staff in the north. And there's an old saying of kicking the can down the road, which is what I will be addressing tonight regarding the new Town Hall municipal building. We have been kicking this can down the road for at least 25 years regarding the new Town Hall and moving our police department headquarters, where it has been housed since 1985 when they consolidated with the village police departments, operating out of a former elementary school, which at the time was to be a temporary location. It is commendable to our police department, who is, by the way, the envy of our county law enforcement, and have worked out of this old decrepit location for this long. The village did upgrade as much the issues that our police force and civilian staff had to endure. Actually, back when I was supervisor, and I did reach out and thank Mayor Worrell for those improvements. And it was around 4 years ago. I give credit to our past and present leadership for our remarkable men and women in blue who protect and serve our residents in our town of Manlius and who have provided the highest level of service regardless of these conditions. Now, regarding town hall, some question. Why haven't we done anything about this sooner? I would like to put a little of this in perspective and give you some history at the same time. As you know, this building was built in 1962 with renovations and additions in 1987. In 2001, a study was done basically to see if this building could be expanded to include the police department, which then and now would not be feasible. Supervisor Deere has explained this, so I won't go into detail. That study then was done 14 years after 1987. So it was a concern, but not urgent. Rumor has it that there was actually pushback from some board members who lived in Manlius and sort of liked the police in their village. That was just a rumor. Now it has been 37 years since the addition and 62 years since this building was built. More interesting numbers to consider though. From 2001 to 2010, there were 3 different town supervisors representing different political parties. From 2010 to 24, there have been 17 different board members representing different political parties. And finally, 2001 to 2024, there have been 4 different town supervisors, 24 different board members representing the town of Manlius and representing different political parties as well. To me, that's a lot of turnover and inconsistencies to accomplish a large project like this. I've heard the argument that no resident has spoken at the open podium. Well, I would think that's because they don't work under these conditions. But the employees who do work at Town Hall have shared their concerns with the building's difficult working conditions. The argument to compare this facility with homeowners' maintenance as a fixer-upper, which I refer to as a Band-Aid method. Well, this is not a residential home where it houses 1 to 5 people. We're talking about a business that houses 37 sworn police officers and 6 civilians in their facility in Manlius, and 27 employees that work here at the town hall. Also, as Supervisor Deere stated, the conditions of town hall have experienced many structural issues such as roof leaking over the years, which I can also personally attest to. It does not meet ADA, which has already been discussed, and more importantly, the courtroom is totally out of compliance with the state of New York. To wrap this up, a couple times, with a few more points, when I was supervisor, we did narrow this down to 2 locations in our first phase. One was the landfill. One of the last was the landfill, but because the town owned it, it didn't cost anything to purchase it. But you know, we met with the DEC, and there were just too many environmental hurdles to pursue that location. The second site was the Fiata property on Burdick Street. That's when we began working with Twin Shores. They played a vital part and an important role in negotiating the purchase of price of this land. And by 2018 and 19, we began discussions with the board members to move forward and present the terms and conditions to the residents. Then 2019 happened. Elections occurred. There were 4 new board members, none of whom at that time had any local municipal government experience. Now, I'm not making excuses for them, but there is a learning curve, and they all needed in order to understand how things worked. It takes time and a cooperative effort by each board member to make the best possible decisions when it came to grasp this project. I'll wrap it up. Anyway, 4 years later, here we are. 2 last points, okay? Some who oppose this do have personal issues with the police in general, and you can read between the lines in their comments, which is very subtle in their statements, but obvious. And my last point, finally, let's not forget the lease that we've been paying to the Village of Manlius for almost 40 years, and it's up to $100,000 a year now. And this adds up to a lot. The building had an assessed value of around $750,000 in 2018, and probably closer to $1 million now. So this cost will have a net effect on the purchase of the land and the building down the road. The longer we wait to do this, the more expensive it will continue to be. And since neither the police department or town hall are meeting our expectations, it would benefit the town to combine them to be a better functional facility. And now is the time to quit kicking the can down the road. Okay.
Forgot stuff.
You're up.
Thank you, Supervisor Theobald. I think it's really fitting that I should go right after Supervisor Theobald because
his comments really dovetail perfectly into mine. You know, I was one of the people elected in 2019. My name is Heather Waters. I served as a town board member with these lovely folks until recently, and so glad to see Ingrid Gonzalez-McCurdy sitting in that seat right now. And I also was part of the I was a co-chair with Sarah Bollinger of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. So during the 3 years we spent actually working with our residents to understand exactly what was desired by the community in terms of effective, responsive, and collaborative government operations. So I actually have copies that I'd like to pass around if anyone would like to see what I have. And it highlights this portion of what I would like to comment on. So, you know, there were 3 years of dedicated work on the plan committee, and we got this deep understanding of community priorities. I am supporting the land purchase because this was a priority that was actually detailed by the community in the comprehensive plan. If you look at implementation items on page 49, which is the second page here of the comprehensive plan, it says, construct an energy efficient town hall that is accessible and provides fit for purpose facilities for police and our court. That was going along with all the other objectives that we had, which were broader than that, you know, including basically to continue to provide and improve upon our high level of public services, such as the police, fire, and highway departments. And I also included the page of all the outreach, the work we did for 3 years, and all the participants and all the people we worked with, listening sessions, study groups, focus groups, stakeholder interviews, surveys, community workshops and open houses, public meetings and hearings, and thousands of people who established all of these priorities. So I understand, I mean, I think we just heard the long and sordid tale of like getting here. When we first came in, I think we all thought, what, we need a new town hall? And it didn't take long because for us to understand why we needed it, because we got to know our colleagues and we got to understand what their day-to-day life was like. We saw constituents come in and interact with government. And I am telling you from firsthand experience, I understand and can vouch for the importance and the urgency of this project, along with representing a committee and the thousands of people that we engaged with over 3 years who also supported this and made it a priority and turned that priority into a plan that was voted into law last year, July 26th. So I know the details and the money is scary, but I also know that one of us in this room, at least one of us, wishes that we had a pool. And gosh knows if you grew up in this community, we thought, oh, we'll never get a pool because that'll never come to pass because we just couldn't get it over the line. What it takes to get projects like these over the line is a lot of collaboration, a lot of consistent effort. And then you can have a facility where in your own community, you can go for a swim, you can have aqua therapy. And I think the people advocating for a pool understand what it's like to defer needed services. So many services are a part of this. And I'll finally say it was also my honor to be a part of the police committee. And that is the most compelling reason to marry those services together. We need fit for purpose solutions, and the collaborative nature of our police department too really gives us an opportunity as a community to see them in action and to see them create all kinds of important partnerships if they had more space to do that. Thank you.
From the back of the line, anyone else? Coming up? Show hands.
We're doing the hallway, the wall first, and then we'll start.
Anyone here? We'll move, yeah.
Does anyone need a chair? Who currently doesn't have a chair? Everyone who's standing, okay.
I don't have any notes, so I'll just really quick. Barb Wilson, 8786 Horseshoe Lane, thanks for the water. And I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for all the effort put into this project. I mean, I hear what Ed Theobald said, I hear what Heather said. You know, as a community, we are an affluent community supposedly, right? And we sit here and go, we don't have all that much money, but we're considered an affluent community. And that means it comes with a little bit of extra taxes every now and then, right? Every year, right? And as a community, I feel like we don't put our heads, in the right space for this. We're gonna be in worse trouble down the road. And if you have the pleasure of going to the police department, man, you'll know they need a new office. The accessibility here is a legal issue. And so I feel like, you just need to hear more from people who are absolutely in favor of this. Because I know that when the large numbers come, there are a lot of people who probably aren't in favor of this. But I'd rather give my $100, $200 extra in taxes a year for something that benefits everybody, and swimmers, whatever. But I feel like this is absolutely like the last minute to get this done, and we should do that. So thank you for making it possible.
So just for a point of clarification, we are discussing the land purchase for the police, court, and town facility. The pool is a completely separate discussion, a completely separate project. With actually, just as a reminder, the goal is that the county likes it and hopefully the county gets it. So that's just something that I want to make sure, this public hearing is about this land purchase for an eventual town hall project. So, okay, so anyone here in the first row who would like to come up and speak?
My name is Malcolm Bender. I've lived here all my life. I'm 70 years old. And I spent 4 years as an elected official back in 1990. I'd like to start out, I want the lawyer to really listen. Okay. You're going to hate me when I'm done, but I feel like we should do this. I'm going to put the town of Manlius on notice to investigate the records of flood conditions from 1950 to date with Burdick Street, Cedar Bay Road, State Route 290, State Route 5, within 2 miles of the proposed property to be purchased by the town. And putting the town of Manlius on notice because in 1981 and 1996, this property has been inaccessible by car due to floodwaters. Please include this notice in the minutes and respond in future minutes before you make the purchase. I've been out there. Anybody lived here in 1981? Well, in 1981, late at night, it was raining real hard. By 2 o'clock in the morning, my first call from customer help my entire flood basement.
Malcolm, could you speak up just a bit?
Yeah,
I can't have it here.
Yes, yes.
That's not gonna, that's just in the news.
Okay. At any rate, Route 5 between Burdick Street and Hybrid Street was a roaring river. Nobody will believe it. You have to have pictures. I was there. I had a pickup truck and the water was almost up to my doors. And Route 5 got closed that time. It closed again in 1996, I believe it was. And likewise with Cedar Bay Road, and likewise with 290 and other places. Another term you'll hear, and people get it wrong all the time, it's basic math. They'll say, oh, that's a 100-year floodplain. 100-year flood. They think that means it might flood once in 100 years. It means it will flood at least once in 100 years. If you go over to the town office, town Manlius highway department, Route 290 floods over and closes off with a flood every few years. Okay, everybody knows that every few years, but it's in a 100-year floodplain. What is it closing off every few years or every 100 years? Well, that term 100-year floodplain means at least. Well, it happens every 3 to 5 years. That's at least once per 100 years. So don't let that term ever fool you. Another one that's I'm putting the town on notice because I feel if policemen can't get to or from their own office, that's a problem. So I'm sure in the police department there's a protocol for high water problems and what to do. Well, they're gonna have to help themselves because they'll be the most rude in the whole thing if it happens like in the past. Get somebody to do the study. Don't take my word for it. I want the public record and some investigator to figure that out. Another one, I'm not from the town on notice, but here's another thing. I remember going there as a little kid, in the early 1960s. My grandfather did a lot of stone for landscaping that he did in pumping park and the whole area. Back then, you went down this little driveway, and on the left, there's a little garage with trucks and equipment and you name it. And then you had a crane lifting stone out of those big pits. They were all empty at that time. And for some reason, all of a sudden, within a very short time, it filled with water. And I'm told, and I believe it, some of the equipment is still down there in the bottom of those gravel beds. You don't know what they are, is it, what make they are, what was there, I think they're there. Okay, the site has been used as a gravel bed for many trucks, excavators, cranes, bulldozers, etc. In the early 1960s, it flooded. Existed, the equipment is probably still there. There was a small garage, that. In that small garage, you did oil changes, filled with fuel oil, gasoline, hydraulic oil, antifreeze, you name it. And then I'm asking the town to hire a qualified company to investigate the entire site for hazardous waste before you purchase. Please make these reports available for everybody. And I think you need to investigate the ground in the whole site and whatever is in the bottom of those gravel beds. I don't need to stop it at all. I want things to happen. I'm thrilled to think the town would have a park, and I support having a park in the police department. Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else you want to talk about?
My name's Skip Lawson from beautiful downtown Kirkville. And, I don't know how much this is gonna raise the taxes, what you say, but like this year, bring everybody in Kirkville's assessment went up roughly $20,000 a piece or a property. That's an extra $700-800 per year per person. And this year is gonna add on to that even more. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'd like to see a lot more of the studies you're doing, to see if there's other ways also. Maybe you can get income from it to help facilitate it and keep the tax rate down, because it's getting out of town, it's getting out of sight in this town. It really is. And how many people here agree with me? There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph.
So we have one person raising their hand on Zoom. Anyone else would like to make a public comment via Zoom, please use the raise hand function. You can just promote the link.
He was talking about this, I thought he was talking about the Zoom person, somebody's gonna come on the screen behind it.
She should be coming out.
Wow. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say the town board has a fiscal responsibility to residents to negotiate on our behalf to represent our best interests. This isn't in our best interest at all. It is just giving millions to a company that just bought this land 2 years ago, to an LLC that is not in good standing, according to the Office of the Illinois Secretary of State's website. When I was on the board, we looked into this property repeatedly, and I ruled it out every time. An engineer already looked at the property, and I'm pretty sure issues were raised. The town did an appraisal for this very land, and it came back under $200,000, and that was in 2023, 1 year ago. If the town board was seriously reconsidering this property, why haven't you completed another appraisal, just like any homeowner would be required to do? The bank would not lend more than it's actually worth, and neither should the taxpayers. Even if this property was reasonably priced, this is a horrible location for a town hall, as it is removed from the community. Residents knew this in 1979 when they rejected creating a town park here due to concerns of the wetlands, the floodplain, and maintenance costs. Sounds familiar. I spent 4 years asking why, if this is so important, why do we not have a capital improvement plan? Why haven't we saved any money for this very large expense? I spent 4 years on the board explaining repeatedly how the so-called studies are not usable, as it only looks at police stations in municipalities that are 2 to 4 times the size of Manlius. The 2018 study actually says the town hall staff needs less space than they currently have now. I attended court yesterday and more than half the appearances were virtual. With the advancement of technology, our needs are very different from even a couple of years ago. We absolutely should be renovating our current facilities to meet our needs. The American Rescue funds could even be used to upgrade our HVAC or fix our roof and make our building more accessible with minimal impact to taxpayers. Previous town boards have neglected our current town hall. It is past time we take care of the facilities we already have. Our current facilities are in the villages where residents can walk right to them, enjoy parks, and they are integrated into the community. The town should not move forward with this purchase, and instead it needs to invest in our existing facilities. Out of 19 towns in Onondaga County, the town of Manlius collects the second highest in property taxes. This is unsustainable. With costs rising everywhere, the town of Manlius needs to prioritize getting their budget under control and stop wasting taxpayers' money on wants and focus on our needs. Thank you.
Okay, second row.
Good evening, I'm Frederick Sparrow, and I live in Erie Village. Praises of the police department have been sung quite a few times already tonight. They desperately and deservedly need new quarters. I'm retired law enforcement, so I kind of know what I'm speaking about. I've toured their department, and I can't believe this first rate police department is operating out of a third world type setup. So I know the town hall project is expensive. I urge you to carefully study it and try to make provisions for improved quarters for the police department in the near future. I know it's going to take time, but they deserve better.
Second row.
I'm Brian McKelson, live on North Birdie Street. Chief knows in their corner 110% no matter what. They deserve it in the police department. They need better equipment than what they have too, as far as I'm concerned. But my question to you is, now this project that the town's interested in this piece of property, does that mean that 400 apartment complex is no longer up there? Is that project falling through?
It's a different site.
No? Pardon me?
It's a different site.
Different site, but you guys are gonna be right across from town center there. Okay, now there's 63 acres of land there. That couldn't be touched anyways. Doesn't that sit right in the floodplain? So that property, you might as well just look at that. It's just like with the village over by my house there. They donated a piece of property because they found out they couldn't do anything to it. They didn't want to pay the tax revenue on it. So why don't you do this? Just leave that with them. Let them pay the taxes on that. Maybe it'll cover a little of the cost of this. Why don't we take, and figure out some way, $2.8 million for 7 acres of land? Even better than that. I mean, when the village here, when they had to revamp the police department and stuff, and they redid the village, they moved into a different building or facility. They revamped that up there. They rebuilt it. Here's an idea. I'll have that parking lot out back used. Actually, you don't want to use this building for a while. Build yourself a 2 or 3 story complex out there. Put our police department in it. Put a garage underneath for their vehicles and everything else. Then turn this into a parking lot. Use a piece of property we already own. Let's not waste our money, tax dollars and stuff somewhere else. And every time I turn around, the taxes are going up. I retired, Christ, I thought I was going to get along, And every time I turn around, I'm paying more money out of, my pocket and stuff. And I'm pretty sure most of these people are getting sick and tired of it too. I mean, people, okay, you didn't want to say anything. This pool, I ain't never going to be around to use that frickin' pool. I'd love to swim my ass in that creek down back there. Why should I keep spending my tax dollars that I'm tired of it. People are spending money on something. Half these people aren't going to go to that pool. But these are the people that are going to suffer from, the money's coming out of their retirements, out of their pockets. Their taxes are going up, not the kids and stuff. And Christ, look at what just happened to our school taxes. Think about that. Someday you're all going to be retired. You'll be in the same boat as we are. Think about that. Thank you.
I just want to say, when I hear, I'm sorry, my name is Julia Clark, and I'm from Manlius. When I hear the word grant and put out there. That'll probably be used a lot for a project like this. There's no such thing as a grant. There is no such thing as free money. Free money, it grants our taxpayer dollars. So that's, I just hate that term. I do believe that something is needed, and something like that, thinking outside of the box is a great way to look at something. There should be a committee outside of the box, because when you all of a sudden start talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars for a new building, you are talking about having a developer have a new house in Steinway Heights. That's what happens. People get very rich off of these projects. That there are opportunities that exist. That was phenomenal. Maybe not the right one, but thinking like that is incredibly creative and a wonderful solution. I know I have a lot of clients in this area, and I have a lot of clients that are selling their house because the assessments just keep going up and up and up. Some of them pay more in taxes than I pay for my mortgage. And are we an affluent community? Yes, but should we just be an affluent community? No. We're making it so that the average person can't live here anymore. And when you say taxes will only go up $100, well, if my taxes only went up $100 every time I was told $100, that would be wonderful. That's not the case. It's $100 now, and your assessment just went up $30,000. So there are real dollars, real people impacted by this, that I think before you move into something that is going to be so expensive, that maybe look at some other opportunities that maybe won't be quite as expensive. So, thank you.
Something really quick. She just talked about, real quick, she just talked about, you know, the $100 taxes and stuff. You know, what people don't realize, you stop and look at it, this town, you got county taxes, there's $100. Your village taxes, $100. Your town taxes, $100. You know, it all adds up in the end. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. Okay, second row. Anyone else in the second row would like to speak?
Blyler, Fayetteville address. Elaine Blyler. I got your message, Sarah, thank you. I made comments on the purchase offer. As you're aware, Mr. Projects, I'm sure you got the comments too. Don't think you're representing the town adequately. That's my opinion. I think that the town should have a separate lawyer to review the contract from the lawyer who's representing the seller. Am I right? You represent both parties?
I'm not representing both parties. My firm is, there's a lawyer in Rochester that's representing the seller. I'm representing the town in this transaction. We've taken all the necessary precautions to wall each other out.
I've worked in development my entire life. I read contracts all the time about development. This contract is horrible for the town. I saw you made some adjustments to my comments. 90 days due diligence period, yes, you should have that. It should start as soon as they receive all the documents you need, okay? But after that, you're going to need an approval period where you can go to the Army Corps of Engineer and the DEC and the City County Planning and the New York State Highway Department and the Town and Village Highway Department to get the approvals you need to build this building. Because once you own the land, if you can't get the approvals from the government agencies, you own the land. What are you going to do? My understanding from talking to other people I know in the business, that is wetland. And as wetland, you may not get any approvals from the Army Corps and the DEC. And the other thing you have to remember is the Army Corps is federal, the DEC is state. The two never agree on anything. So you're looking at least 6 months to get some sort of approval out of any of them. Okay? You have not made a provision for that in the contract. And granted, you may have to make your deposit go hard after the first due diligence period. But $10,000 going hard and then finding out you can't build the building is not a huge loss to the taxpayers. 2.8 million is, okay? I saw you made adjustments to the fact that they wanted you to start developing as soon as you own the property, okay? They should have absolutely no say as to when you begin development of that property. You now own it. Do you think when you buy someone's house, they should tell you where you place your furniture? It's none of their business once the closing happens. Okay, and as far as accepting the wetland, somebody here should call the Army Corps of Engineers and the DC and ask any of them if they're gonna let you put a park there. Okay, it is never going to happen. You are taking the burden of owning that land, the tax responsibility of owning that land away from the seller, and you're putting it on your back, plus you're gonna have to insure it. What happens when someone falls into one of those waterways? Drowns. Now it's on the town. Now it's an insurance burden for the town. You don't want those wetlands. You don't want them. I don't care what you think is gonna be parked. Call the Army Corps, call the DC, find out if anybody's gonna let you build a park there.
Anyone else in the second row? Okay, third row. Keep going.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Hogan. I'm a resident of the town of Manlius, and I respectfully speak against the proposed purchase agreement with
Sir,
Twin
what did you
Shores.
say your name was? I apologize.
Patrick Hogan. Respectfully speak against the proposed purchase agreement with Twin Shores Property LLC for the two parcels located at 5424 and 5430 Burdick Street north of the town of Manlius for the purchase price of $2.8 million. These parcels are owned by Now the Town LLC, who purchased the parcels in 2022. And as the young lady said before, there appears to be some issues with them. My opposition is based on two very solid positions. First position is that the town board is taking taxable parcels that contribute to the overall tax base and remove it forever from the tax rolls. It's gone. Okay. This results in negative cash flow to the town and redistributes the ever increasing town costs to the remaining taxable property base. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm tired of it. The second position is that the $2.8 million cost is step one in a yet to be communicated overall cost estimate that will be laid on our backs as taxpayers. Okay. And it's a significant total project investment. It is. The 2018, which Supervisor Deere put out on the website, Town of Manlius municipal building study as prepared by King & King showed an investment at that time, 2018 of $17.5 million. Based on recent construction cost experience and commercial average building cost to date. I do this every day, financial. Do you know what that cost is going to be today? You're going to be north of $60 million easily, without cost overruns, which we all know what happens in today's day and age. $60 million. This isn't $2.8 million. This is the start of an endless spending of money. Endless. The cost almost 6 years would easily, as I said, you're approaching $60 million. Okay. I hope that the young lady that spoke earlier about it's only $100. I hope she'll pay my incremental tax bill. That's what I hope. The same 2018 study referenced a functional site that's already owned by the town. It's already owned by the town. So there's at least $3+ million of savings. All right. It's at the corner of North Burdick Street and Bowman Road. Well, it was a former landfill 40+ years ago. That property was properly maintained and remediated, and testing at that time in that 2018 study shows that the land does not pose any risk to the public. It's amazing they're taking your money and my money to go spend on property that we don't need while we own property that we don't use. If this was a business, they wouldn't be in business. Why has the town board not put together a comprehensive plan? Okay, if you're in business, you're not doing this full time, and you work for a business, you hope they stay in business. They put together a comprehensive plan. I haven't seen one. One doesn't exist. If it is, show it to me. I do deals on an everyday basis in my business. Okay, this is the young lady that spoke. This is not a good deal.
No, it's not.
It's awful.
So I do want to point out, we do have a comprehensive plan.
Okay, all right, I'd like to see it, or I'd like to know where it is. Why have we not heard about it? Why have we not heard about the plans for locations currently being used and whether or not these sites will be put back on the tax rolls? Or will the town continue to use it even though a space needs study needs to happen? We're just gonna continue to add property and we wanna build a park. And I'm not against the park. I agree. I think the police department needs better equipment, better facilities. Don't disagree. But not like this. Not like this. Let's do it the right way if you guys are gonna do it. Effective businesses chime in, and we're pretty profitable, and we make pretty good decisions, are focused on spending wisely, but only after developing detailed strategies and plans, including use of existing assets. I just got one more thing, Supervisor. The taxpayers of the town of Manlius deserve and demand a comprehensive and detailed plan and vision that encompasses both future and existing town facilities. There's a lot of waste around there. Okay, so somebody needs to do something, put together a plan. That's why you guys are elected leaders. If you guys aren't gonna do it, then we'll elect somebody else at the next election. The vision needs to encompass future and existing, so we, the taxpayers, can provide opinions, feedback, and perspective. This ramrodding this deal through and getting it done, I don't care that you have 90 days. I do deals all the time, as I said. 90 days, you're still on the hook. 90 days, we're out 10 grand. 90 days, we know what's gonna happen. I urge you guys as board members to defer entering into this agreement, table it, okay? And solicit the right feedback from us, the taxpayers, who you guys are supposed to represent. And I don't think you guys are representing us very well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
2 points of the landfill. We do own the landfill. That was while the 2018 study was proposed. Since then, we did learn that it wasn't sufficient to be able to put a facility on. So that's why the landfill is not being considered now. And then just to point out too, as far as a space needs study that looks at what is requested from the police department and the town hall, those are in the 2018 study. It's a pretty detailed, tells you every office, how many square feet it needs, and things like that. So just to be clear, we have the 2018 study. While the costs are not reliable at this point, the content of that study, the space study, the issues with the current facility, all of those things are still incredibly relevant. So just to say that, that study has been available. It's been something that I hope everybody who haven't had a chance to look at it, take a look at it. It does lay out what is needed, what the plan is for this facility. And so that's just something that we have tried to communicate with everybody. But if you haven't taken a look, please do take a look at that study.
And the comprehensive plan is on our website.
But I want to be clear, it's a land use plan, it's not a plan for this building.
Yeah,
That does not.
but it's not comprehensive. It's not comprehensive. You don't, look, I've got nieces and nephews. They're 13. I don't go and buy them a car now and say you're gonna drive it. They're not eligible to drive it. You guys haven't done the work. You guys have not done the detail. You have not presented it to us, the taxpayers. You guys need to do that. You guys need to defer signing this agreement.
If I might comment, so the due diligence that I referenced earlier is first looking at this building and if it's feasible to add on and address the ADA compliance, the court, and the need for space. The step after that would be to create what you're describing, which if the existing space will not accommodate what is needed to bring us in compliance with state law, then we would look at then what are our options, and that would need to be fleshed out by those parties who are providing us with bids.
I don't, with all due respect, man, buying something now and then everything follows. Do your due diligence, do your homework, put your comprehensive plan together and then come back to the taxpayers and say, this is what we would like to do. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So anyone else in the third row, just give everybody an opportunity.
My name is Cheryl Mack, and I live in the village of Fayetteville, and I'm going to speak loudly. The reason I'm going to speak loudly is I listen to, watch, and watch later every town board meeting. You can't hear. You guys need microphones, you need a microphone up here. Having this in the owls for the people on there is just fine and dandy. But when you're trying to listen on Zoom, we can't hear what you're saying because a lot of you don't project. That's my first comment. It has nothing to do with this purchase, but I'm going to say it. Okay, I'm going to go by my words here because if I don't, I'll talk for an hour. On this proposed land purchase, I would state the obvious. Our assessments and town taxes continue to rise, as do the costs of building materials, labor, and interest rates. Many of us have experienced significant increases in town assessments and tax bills. The town board and the town supervisor work for us, not the other way around. We as taxpayers should have a say on any big capital projects in our town that involve our tax dollars. I'm against purchasing the parcels at 5424 and 5430 North Burdick for $2.8 million. This piece of property is only assessed by the town of Manlius for $337,000. I'd like to know why it's not assessed at $2.8 million and you're not collecting taxes for that amount. It's 8 times the current assessed value. I understand that things right now with supply and demand, people pay over asking price. My daughter moved here, had to pay over asking price. She just bought another house, she's paying over asking price. My sister-in-law just moved here, but not 8 times asking price. Prudent buyers, which I hope you are, especially those responsible for taxpayers' dollars, would walk away from this deal. You want to purchase this property in order to build a new town hall. You need to convince the taxpayers first that we need a new town hall. A new town hall would probably cost $20 million, now I know it's $60 million, but you need to convince us of that. We need an analysis of the current building, the ADA compatible, OSHA compliance issues, all the other things you've been talking about. The taxpayers want to see the data, they want to see an analysis, and they want to be shown this stuff at some meetings that are convenient to people to attend. Why do you need new space? Aren't records today stored electronically? Don't most people check for information on a website? How much foot traffic do you really have? And with all the new technology out there as tools, which you brag about with all your Zoom and all your other stuff, and the option of remote work, and the fact that all your jobs are part-time, I don't foresee a big boom in staff members that's going to require a huge facility. Previously, the town supervisor argued that we were short on space and needs repairs. Again, people have talked about how old the building was. There are a lot of houses in this area that were built in the 1800s. They're still functioning. Obviously, they're residential. This is a commercial building. For a commercial building, this is not that old. If people had done what they should have while they had the building, it would be in better shape. Also, you talked about the leaky roofs. Who has a leaky roof? It doesn't occur overnight. You fix it. I was in charge of a 10,000 square foot facility in my profession. If a roof was leaking, that meant we had had a problem for a while. You don't just fix it and go away. This is maintenance. This is called investing in your property. A responsible property owner maintains their buildings, and several of you have been on the board for 4 years or more. What were you doing with these repairs? Do you want the place to fall down around you so you have to replace it? Sometimes we wonder. Now, I do understand the police department. You need a new facility. Your facility is crazy. I can't believe you're still in it. But why can't you just look at this facility, upgrade it for the town hall, and find a new place for the police department, and put the courts next to the police department? That'd be a lot less money. And the argument that the police need to be in the center of the town, that's ridiculous. Response time for the police, they don't all pull out of the stall and go to a call. I'd like to see that. You need to convince taxpayers this idea of yours is economically sound, that you've taken on the fiduciary responsibility we as taxpayers expect from our elected officials, and that this is the best of many solutions. You haven't convinced me that building a new town hall with a police headquarters and court system together is the best solution. And then and only then should you look at whether or not you purchase property to build something. One more item, and they talked about it. I've done environmental work my whole life, all on a volunteer basis, but I do have a biology degree and have taken lots of courses. Those 62 acres of wetlands, like everybody has said, are wetlands. They're in a floodplain. You are not gonna build a park or a community center. You might put a couple trails in, but guess what? They're probably not gonna last, okay? And it's gonna have cost and maintenance and liability, which will fall back on us. So my whole point speaking tonight was that I oppose purchasing the land.
Everyone, my name is Matthew Denton. I had remarks, but they kind of don't make sense anymore because the misinformation and just the deluge of questions that have been coming out tonight. And I want to just state that the town board has a responsibility to residents. You have a responsibility to be fiscally responsible with their tax dollars, to work for the public good, and to be honest in your actions. The only reason we are here today is because on May 22nd, we came out of an executive session at the end of one of these board meetings when no one is here anymore. And he made motion to put this purchase agreement in front of us and schedule this public hearing. No other information at that time was available. All it was that we're putting a public hearing together to purchase some land. So the first thing that comes out of that is, what the heck are we doing? You know, if you hadn't been involved in the town board, you don't know what they're doing with the land. You don't know that eventually it's going to be for a police building or potentially it's going to be for a new town hall. You knew nothing. A week later, we get an article in the Eagle Bulletin of the town board speaking to the reporters stating details of this purchase agreement, that it's going to be 2.8 acres, that, hey, we're going to get a 62-acre park. Well, that's not true. I mean, so to file, and so then we had to submit to the town board that, hey, you submitted public information from this executive session. You made it public. Where's the rest of it? And only then did the town board actually make that purchase agreement available on its website with select information to sell that narrative that this is great and wonderful for the town. That 2018 study and the one before that were feasibility studies. Feasibility study is, can we do this? There was never any action from the community on what we want or what we need as a community to move forward. How does this impact us? What are the things that we care about? And how is this going to grow our community? And furthermore, the town, and this has been talked about before, in 2023, just last year, had an appraisal on these properties. They spent the money, they got an appraisal, and it's $191,000. This is documents that you requested, that you achieved, and you didn't even give this to the public. You created a page to give out the select information we wanted, and you were not giving us full details on what is actually happening. Instead, it's a purchase agreement of $2.8 million for 8 acres. Well, if you actually go and look at the, appraisals, not the assessment, the appraisal, that this is only worth $191,000, it actually shows you a map of the wetlands. The actual, it's somewhere here. Hopefully the town board will make this public so you can all see it. But there's only, out of that 8 acres, less than 2 acres, I believe, it's in there, that is actually developable. So we're purchasing 8 acres, but only 2 acres of it can be developed. That 6 acres is gone. Or unless we're going to go in there and spend millions of more dollars to go and build it up, stabilize it, change it so it's no longer a floodplain and can be built on. So there's a whole lot of information, and this has been a 20-25 year project. I will state that, but it's been a 20-25 year wish list from town board to town board, to town supervisor to supervisor of, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had a new building? Hey, we said we were going to do something about the police department, but we're not doing anything of it. And yes, it was kicked down the road. But if you look at the very beginning of this 20-25 years, ask, the town owned 4 acres on North Vernon Street, where the current orthodontist has just been developed. We own that property. We gave it away for $1. $1. And that same, I think it was 2 years later, started this discussion of let's go build new municipal building. And here we are saying that, oh wait, we gotta go spend $2.8 million. You know, this town board, yes, it's new, and they're picking up the information that's been given to them, but I would say that it's very questionable whether or not that information is actually accurate. And we should have the due diligence that this isn't just a town board going and saying, someone told us, we have this report from 2018, from before we were here, we have, what is the legitimacy of this? How does this actually relate to today? And they should be a due diligence of what is it we need, and it can't be just the board doing this. There needs to be public involvement. Before we do anything, purchase any land, any further action, there needs to be public meetings of what is it the public wants. Anything less is just irresponsible and quite frankly, just not acceptable. Now, I'm gonna end there, my time's up, but before I do, I just want to make a quick statement. The town board is elected to represent the residents of the town. And as residents, we have rights, including the use of permissive referendum, to force a vote on actions performed by the board. As such, I'm submitting a petition of 133 residents to notify the board that if they move forward with agreeing to this purchase, we will be circulating and submitting a permissive referendum petition so that residents have the final say on how our tax dollars should be spent. So if you move forward with this purchase agreement, I will go knock on every door that I can. Other individuals do the same, and we are going to force this to an election ballot. We have a say in how our tax dollars are spent, and it's only right that we actually have that say. So this is just unacceptable. I would state that. So, thank you.
Third row? Okay, anyone in the fourth row?
A little hard for arthritic men to get up there. My name's Harris Lindenfeld. I live in Manlius, and I started representing school districts in central New York in their capital construction projects in 1987. So I have some experience with projects like this. The town has been considering this, according to the website, since 1999. We know that a capital reserve fund is available and it can be created by the board and used for payment of these monies, but nobody's planned, nobody's created one in all this time, especially not in the last 4 years when all you folks were here. Second, the dollar value of these wetlands is a curious business to me. I think we've learned that they're not going to be an asset to the town, they're going to be an albatross because the developer doesn't need them, doesn't want them, doesn't want to pay the taxes, and you can't develop it. So what about a study to find out why, what's there, what's really there? I haven't, and by the way, I haven't seen a phase 1 assessment, a phase 2 assessment. I have no idea when the secret process is going to begin. The secret process will be a type 1 action, and it will certainly take beyond October with any detail at all. I'm curious to know whether the town has engaged landscape architects, geologists, architects, engineers to give them advice, or a fiscal advisor to tell you what the actual cost over the 20 or 30 years might be. There are very good fiscal advisors, and they go by that name in Syracuse, so you might contact them. They're not a client. So the next point is that in the past several years, especially since COVID, costs have been skyrocketing. And I think perhaps where the gentleman got his 60 million
is the cost overall over that period of time. The interest rates are higher. The interest rates have gone way up, as you know. And why don't you start a capital reserve fund and wait till the interest rates go down before you make this huge step? But in the past several years, there have been supply chain problems and manufacturing delays that have interfered with these projects, not just for a month or two, but years. One of my school districts had a referendum for a middle school, and they voted to spend $23 million. At bid time, the bids came in at $35 million. That's not uncommon. And your construction, when is it going to be in? 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now? How long will it be for the time you buy the land till the first person enters an office in whatever that facility is? You've got to look at that, and you need fiscal advice from somebody able to give you that advice. Next, in the purchase agreement, the buyer accepts all of the properties in as is where is condition and releases seller from all liability at closing. You don't have time between now and an October closing to do this. You need a year, perhaps. These type 1 actions take a lot of time. There has to be a lot of collaboration between a lot of departments, a lot of agencies, and there have got to be studies and scoping sessions and public hearings. You don't have time. Before I get to the last one, well, let me just go to the last one. Page 10 of the purchase agreement lists people who are notified in the event of any notice to parties. Notices to the seller are copied to Harris Beach. Notices to the buyer are copied to Harris Beach. I have never seen in all that time of probably $1 billion worth of construction, an acquisition deal where the same law firm represented both sides. I have nothing to say bad about Harris Beach. It's just a terrible idea, and it, for me, borders on municipal malpractice. I strongly urge you to find a different set of eyes and a different set of brains to look at this and see whether there are places to negotiate. I don't know what negotiation has come, if any, and I don't know how it went. So I think very strongly that ought to be done. Whether or not, I think I heard today that there may have been a waiver by the town of a conflict of interest.
Before this even started, there was a waiver that was passed by the board and signed.
Yeah, okay, rescind that. Rescind that immediately. Thank you very much.
My name is Casey Cleary Hammerstead.
Excuse me. There you go. Sorry.
Sure. Casey Cleary Hammerstead, Town of Manlius resident for 25 years. I am also a trustee of the Village of Fayetteville since this past April. I want to be clear, I'm here in my role as a citizen, not as a trustee, though there is a little crossover in my roles. I am a Village of Trustee representative to the police committee, and it's a role I am truly honored to serve. So it's only been a few months, and in that period of time, I have learned so much more about the police department, many things that I wish my fellow citizens in the town could also become aware of. In every interaction that I have had with Chief Casellia, within a few seconds, the conversation becomes about, what do you want? You're our community. We are here to serve you. every single time. It comes out of his mouth repeatedly. The chief and more than 20% of our police department's staff live in this community. Their motto is service with integrity that exceeds the expectations of our community. 24 hours of the day, 7 days per week, and 365 days of every year, this community is blessed with an outstanding police force devoted to our safety and well-being. And they do that to the highest levels of national and international accreditation. They risk their lives on the line every shift, and their families and their loved ones hold their breath, hoping they will come home. And this community knows that they do not always come home. The town and 3 villages combined 3 police departments into a former elementary school, and 39 years later, we have still not delivered on a promise to provide them with appropriate facility. All of us in this community have failed to deliver on that promise. 39 years. We, the citizens of all 3 villages of this town and the town of Manlius, how are we repaying them for the standards that they have achieved? What kind of working conditions that they are under? I think you would be scandalized to see that. I got to tour the police facility, and I, living here for 25 years, have heard for a long time how bad the police facility was, but I can tell you that it was far worse than anything I could have ever imagined. And I don't think if you also had the opportunity to tour that facility, that you would agree that we can continue to kick this can down the road. They are in danger. The area in which a person someone who's been arrested is brought in is smaller than the area of many people's walk-in closets. They have to do in that area, put a person in a cell, book that person, and have to stand behind this tiny little white line of distance from the inmate who could spit at them, who could hurt them. I could not stand behind that line, and also I could reach that cell. That booking room is dangerous, and something bad could happen in that. And we all now know that, because when it happened, what will we be saying? When the bad thing happens, we should have done something. All those boards should have done something over those 39 years. I agree with Ed Theobald that we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. We must address immediately, and that will mean 2 years. It'll take 2 years to build them a facility. So immediate is not even going to make it. They're using 7 storage containers out the back of that facility for papers that they are legally required to hold on to. They cannot be electronic records. There's been so many things tonight that don't make sense with the reality of what they live with. This board has legal responsibilities, and every board before you has legal responsibilities if you're not upholding the law on ADA compliance, and we're not providing what our workers need in terms of OSHA standards. What are we doing? Our law enforcement cannot be in a facility that doesn't meet legal requirements. Everyone should understand that part of this debate has to do with, do we have a police department, or do we eliminate a police department to save $5 million? That's part of what is going on here, though that is not being honestly spoken about. There are people who are concerned about their taxes enough to say that the sheriff's department can be the ones who should be providing this type of safety for us. This community, I believe, wants a community police force. I will end. Wants a community police force. Has said so in the comprehensive plan that is written, that they want this to be done. So we have already spoken as a community. There are studies in place, and everyone here, or the majority of people here, seem intent on holding them back. Don't hold back. You have a responsibility to move forward. And in a 90-day process, you can determine whether the site is suitable or not.
They cannot, you're not what you're talking about.
We're not in a debate
You're
here.
not what you're talking about. Something is true.
Anyone else from the 4th row?
time I step up here, I'm always the person who's well, actually, just followed Casey, so she was an advocate for this proposal. Anyway, Tom Bassett, retired real estate lawyer. I was going to say devil's advocate. Resident of the town since 1979. Father of 5 children, grew up in the town. Grandfather of 4 children who are residing in the town. So I have a vested interest, continue to have a vested interest in what occurs in the town. So I read and reviewed the purchase and sale agreement. I read and reviewed the land donation agreement. I've looked at the tax map, which shows the depiction of the parcel, the wetland parcel that is proposed to be donated, and how that's contiguous to the back of this approximate 8-acre parcel that is part of the purchase agreement. Limestone Creek winds through there, and the wetlands are around the creek. And sure, they could possibly flood going forward, nobody knows. But anyway, I've also looked at property description reports on the county real property tax service website. I've watched the news stories on TV. I've read the letters to the editor. I've read in both the Post Standard and the Eagle Bulletin. I've read the articles in those newspapers about this project. So, and I've also heard the history as described by the supervisor and ironically by the former supervisor, who I never thought I'd be in a position of echoing and supporting his position in this situation. But anyway, so I appreciate all of that. My question about the arrival of the $2.8 million was sort of resolved because of the explanation that there was an analysis of commercial parcels available in the town, what they had sold for in recent years, recently, and therefore this seemingly wildly high number makes sense in light of the fact that North Burdick Street is now a hot site, hot development site. The Twin Ponds project, PUD, is proceeding, and there are other projects that will undoubtedly be built along that corridor and on the east side of Burdick Street. So there's an opportunity cost here. If this purchase is tabled, if there's an indefinite deferral of action, if this can is kicked further down the road, we will have lost the opportunity, which is concrete, to acquire a property that can be utilized for the absolutely necessary relocation of the police department to a new, much better facility, the creation of a single floor town hall without the problems that this structure has. And basically, it sounds like there's been a cost benefit analysis of construction of new versus remodeling of this building, at least as far as the town hall is concerned. So it's sort of like that show on HGTV where the couple has to decide whether to remodel or to buy new. And in this case, it seems like buying new makes more sense. So I looked at the purchase and sale agreement. There's a 90-day environmental, due diligence clause. There was a concern that we might not get the $10,000 deposit back. Actually, if the town exercised the right to pull the plug on the whole deal within that 90-day period, the deposit would be returned to the town. Also, that period could well be negotiated forward, in that if there was momentum toward procurement of all necessary approvals, then the seller, if they chose to at least, could extend the due diligence period, and there'd be an agreement in that regard. The contract has a projected December 13th, 2024 closing date or earlier if the town contracted to buy the property and opted to close earlier. Things I thought were useful were, I guess this was Fietta Development Corp used to own this overall property at some point, and somehow worked into this deal is an entitlement of Fietta Realty Corp to purchase a single-family house or lot in the event that the town hall didn't get built and that the town decided to sell the property to a developer and then build a subdivision, and, I mean, am I missing something here as far as?
That's correct.
If we were to try to build a subdivision, they would have.
That's a weird, very weird provision, but it's in it. And the only question I had as far as so-called post-closing site work, 3 business days, does that envision the town having to, within 30 days of the closing, subsequent to the closing, providing a letter stating what the schedule of construction going forward may be?
Yeah.
Or what?
A rough estimate. The best that we have.
So it's not a obligatory.
It's essentially an agreement to agree on something that.
Okay, because to discuss that the actual construction may take months, may not be done in 2025, may flow into 2022.
And we want flexibility to be able to
go
later if we need to.
Okay. So the only things I had were Matthew Dunn's explanation of his position, and that of, I think, his wife, Elaine. And now find out why she moved off the town board, because this must have been an incredibly divisive issue. Now, because the dentist comprised, here's what I'll just put this. I got a newsletter from the Central New York Solidarity Coalition. In that newsletter, there is a site to this town hall meeting. In that site, there's a link to a website that the dentists created to outline all of their oppositions. And then they, on that website, it talks about a group of concerned Manlius residents, but it doesn't identify who those are. It doesn't state that the dentists that created this entity apparently went around and got a bunch of signatures of the neighbors on a petition. They created this entire oppositional website, and the attachments to it are their letters and outlines opposing this whole project. So I understand the passion that's involved, but I'm not sure this is. It seems to be misleading as far as that issue is concerned. So thanks for your attention.
Thanks. So anyone else in the fourth row? Okay.
I would like to say the zero row. I'm sure most of you know who I am, David Marnell, a former councilman for 16 years. I just have a quick question. This land that you assume that you want to buy for 2.6, 2.8, where were you going to get the financing for that? You're going to the bank, write a check? You're going to float a bond?
The intent would be a bond for it.
Bond, what was the interest rate on that?
I believe when we talked, we were discussing 3.5 to 4%. That's the figure I shared before. The debt service for a $260,000 assessed house would be the liability of about $100 per house, and I think it worked out to about $1 per thousand assessed value, something like that, or 50 cents. So that's roughly what we're looking at, if the cost were $30 million.
What is it today?
What is what today?
What is the interest rate today? You said that was. What is it today?
When we discussed it with bond council most recently, it was 3.5 to 4%, so we don't know exactly what the percentage would be.
Weeks ago, a month ago, when did you just?
Probably within the last month or two.
And I guess the other question is, were you pre-approved for the bonding to go forth with a particular amount of money? Did you have to maintain a certain fund balance and the level of the fund balance?
So we haven't engaged with bond council yet.
Well, okay. Thank you.
So, I just have one thing to say. I don't think
Could you please come to the vote?
I don't think everybody here is against the sheriff's having, I have a lot of respect for the sheriff's department. I don't think anyone is against the sheriff's having a good place to work. I don't think even, the problem is, the only issue here is the property that you're wishing to purchase is not the correct property. That's the issue. I don't think these people are complaining about getting a new building or fixing this one up or building, like this one gentleman said, building the sheriff's department and back to the.
Manlius Police Department.
Manlius, yes. So I don't think that's an issue, and I don't think that was the issue, that they don't want to give them what they want. The issue is the parcel is wetlands. That's the issue. And I've been in real estate my whole life. I don't care what you say, it's wetlands. If this man wants to sell it, I understand that. We don't want to buy it.
So anyone else in that last row back there against the wall? Anyone in the last row against the wall? Okay, anyone else that we have on Zoom? So I just asked,
Good evening, my name's Mary Teskey, I live in the village of Fayetteville. Again, I believe they do need to. Absolutely. You might want to think, if this doesn't go through, maybe outside the box and think, let's just get the police station, you know, and not the town hall. So my question is, when you say $200 and something thousand property would only be $100 a year, you're just talking for the land. You're not talking for
no,
building.
that's for the 30 million, which would be the, you know, that would be
That
double
would be
the
for the
2018
land
focus.
and the building.
Yes.
And then I just wanted to clear something that Matt said. How much of that property is usable for this, that you think is usable?
So, based on what our engineers have looked at and the due diligence documents we've received, currently, there's about 2 acres that's usable, understanding that there is basically a cliff on the edge of the, southern pond that we would be adjacent to, and the intent would be to grade that to make that whole site usable.
So how many more acres would that be?
That would get us closer to that 8 acre mark, like
So you need 8 acres.
How much is that gonna cost? Because you have to add that to
If you like to come back up, we're gonna take another round, so everybody can come back up.
So just say you can't do that for whatever reason, the federal government, 2 acres is not enough, right? I mean, everybody would agree that that's not enough. I mean, how many police cars do we have? Would
We need about 100 spots.
Yeah, so there probably wouldn't even be enough spots for 100 cars on 2 acres.
So we've said that we have had previous town engineers take a look at the site and lay out a best fit or test fit that is on the website. We are looking at engaging another firm to do a new one, more updated one, looking at the additional space that was in the purchase agreement, as well as the new information we've received. And the intent would be that if we find it not feasible to be able to create almost 8 usable acres, that we wouldn't end up.
Well, I would like, if this doesn't go through, that you find a place just for the police and figure out how much they need.
And that's, we have been looking at any reasonable site, and again, there's a 2.5 acre parcel that has frontage on 290, that could possibly fit a police department, it would be a tight fit. That one started at $1 million, so we have been trying to look, we've looked at where Tesla has gone into, we've looked at, we originally looked at where Twin Ponds is going into, we've looked at multiple sites on North Burdick Street. We have considered every available property.
And just to do for police, just to do for the police department,
And
not
so
both.
the assessment would call for about 4 acres of usable space.
What's that?
For the study calls for about 4 acres of usable space.
For
Just the
police, okay.
Just the police
So you are looking at just doing one and then.
And
I
actually,
mean, how many acres is this property?
this is 2.5, I would say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else on the last row before we come back around?
My name's John Friedrichs, I live in Fayetteville, and you said that you considered all sorts of other alternatives, and I just want to throw a few out to you. There's the Express Sales property over there that seems like I don't know how many acres it is, it seems very large. There's this spot where the old fire station, Manlius Fire Station is. There's ball fields connected to it. Possibility that the ball fields could be relocated. There's this vacant area right here in the village. It's been, moodscape right here in the middle of our village.
Sir, that, and the village site, that's been sold, the fire department's been sold, and the village, uses those baseball fields, so that's not an option. But what was the first one you said? I'm not familiar.
Express Sales, the old Express Sales building. And there's a ton of property right behind there. I don't know how many acres suitable for a police department, adequate police department. Manlius. Just to name a few. So I like the idea of thinking outside the box.
Last call for anyone in the last row? Okay, so we've been doing about 5 minutes per. I appreciate everyone has done their best to stick to that time. I would just ask if anyone has anything new to add to the conversation, any new comments, we'll go back around and give everybody an opportunity if you're so interested. So we'll give everybody 3 minutes this time.
Like I said, I'm a trustee back many years ago, and a couple things I learned. Father was a New York State auditor, so he taught me a lot of stuff about finances. And I do not feel good about one law firm, representing the buyer and seller. It can't be legal, or it's not ethical, even if it's legal. So I'd say, just don't even talk about that. One buyer or seller has to get a different law firm. Just don't do that. I took enough courses from people in Nikon, and I know they would say, just don't do it. Another one, the town Manlius, like other municipalities, has the power under eminent domain for certain things. And coming up with the right parcel to create a police station fall within that purview. If they were to go and under eminent domain want to acquire this property, they have to pay a fair value for it. And I'm absolutely sure it wouldn't be $2.8 billion, whatever it would be, but there's got to be a process by which you establish that number, and you might just do that on the side, just figure out how far away from a fair price you're paying, but it's not. Thank you.
Sir, you want to go again?
This has been pretty informative for me, to be honest with you. I wasn't prepared when I got here, but I got a couple of questions. One of them was, I've been a fire commissioner in Kirkville for quite a few years. I'm not currently there. But we have a reserve for replacement fund that we've had for years, because our budget compared to Fayetteville, Manlius, or Minoa, or any of them is like a ice cream cone. And we buy new equipment. So it's a dereliction of your duty to not have a reserve for replacement funds. That really is. Next question I got is, do you folks have to go to a training course once you're elected to this position?
It's not required by law, but we all do go to a newly elected training that's run by the Association of Towns. And we always look for other opportunities to meet with state agencies, federal agencies, to learn more about what our roles entail and more about what we can and can't do. That's been a practice of the town board for 20 years, is to send everybody to the newly elected training and then to seek out any additional opportunity to learn more.
And we have professional services that we contract with, like you've got the engineering companies that we've mentioned, so we rely on the experts that we hire, so that we are informed by true experts. None of us are pretending to be engineers. We're relying on the advice of professionals in their respective fields to guide us in making these choices.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. And the other question I got is, I own a piece of wetlands. It's literally not much bigger than this room. And it wrecks the piece of property that I got for building that. And I can build on it. It's gonna cost me more to rectify and buy property someplace else, and put that wetlands in, than it's gonna cost me to build a building. So, on this piece of property over here, especially when this gentleman says there's 2 acres of buildable land there and the rest has gotta be something done to it, I'd run away from that as fast as you can. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Harris Lindenfeld again. I'd just like to make a request. The website says it has lots of information on this project. It does not. We would like to know who the engineers that you have working for you. How did you select them? What are the contractors? Who are the contractors who were looking at these things? They're not protected from the public.
So I will say, the RFP that we used in the last round to select an engineer is public and available on the website. I believe the bids that we received are all public and available on the website. And in our organizational meeting, details exactly.
Where are they?
Yeah, they're not at this particular spot, but they are always available, have always been available.
How do we find them on the website?
If you search engineering RFP, I believe it'd be the first thing that comes up, but if any additional information should be added, we are happy to take that request.
And no, if someone wants to find something that we're telling you is on the website and you can't find it, just reach out to us or the town clerk and we'll show you where it is. Cause I understand you get on a website and it might not always be very intuitive, so we would be happy to share that information if you can't find it. We're
It
happy to
seems
connect you.
reasonable to gather those documents which are connected to this project and put them in one place, so we wouldn't all have to spend countless hours finding out where they are on the site. If somebody could do that, that would be a service that taxpayers would be happy to pay for. Thank you.
So I think it's on their hands now. Just, let's get the option.
Anyways, from my last conversation, I did conclude by saying I'm not supporting this at all. But I would like to make recommendations. There's a lot of people here who have a lot of good ideas. Why don't you hold some public charrettes that people come in, write down their ideas, what it is that they want, and it will come together and it will be supported at some point, whether it is the police or whether it be an entire complex. Okay, and also I would definitely put your ducks in a row and find out what your financing obligations are. I think it's important because we are getting sick of these taxes. They keep going up. The tax rate's going up, but so is the assessment. It doesn't make a lot of sense, guys. Right? Okay, thank you. But charrette, remember that.
Yeah, what's a charrette, Mr. Marno?
Look it up.
All right, I will. Wait, what? I missed it. If I wrote that down.
My name
I'll
is,
put the definition up on the website for everyone.
my name is Elizabeth Merriam and I live in Fayetteville. And I just have one question, or I want to find it. Is your town engineer, where does your town engineer live?
I don't know.
We have an engineering firm that we contract with.
Where are they from?
Well, they're from all over. They're a local firm and they have numerous employees. I don't think we asked them where they live.
Oh, what's the name of the firm? And they're local?
Clinton Street Service.
There are people from Lavella who live in the town.
Are they the ones that represent you people or us?
Yes, they're
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Anything else? Any comments?
Don't care what it costs, fix the police department. Make it right for them now. Huh? Do what?
We would have to negotiate that with the village of Manlius to do major improvements as we have previously.
Knock your socks off.
We don't own it.
I understand that. But get it, They deserve to have a good place to get it.
Okay, just a couple of things. Obviously, everybody didn't understand, okay? The due diligence period should run 90 days after they get the material they need to review. Because if the people have 30 days to give them the material, it only gives them 60 days to
We already
review.
have the materials from
Okay.
those.
90
It's been
days.
sent to the engineer.
After that, in a typical contract for developers buying land, the $10,000 deposit, okay, if you decide to move forward, goes hard, which means it's no longer refundable. But they get another 6 months to do all their studies and get all of their approvals. After which, in almost all contracts I've ever written, you are given another 90 days, you have to pay another additional deposit to them. Maybe it's $10,000 more. You get an additional 90 days if you need it to get all your approvals and all your studies to make sure that what you want to put on this property can actually be built. So, in the end, you may be out $20,000. But if you're not stuck with $2.8 million of property you can't do anything with, it's worth it. It's better than all those studies you're paying for. It's a savings to the town because it relieves you of getting yourselves in with a piece of property you won't be able to sell to anyone else. Okay, nobody in my business buys wetlands. Apparently towns do.
There is an easier way, just make it 90 days after the completion of secret, because you have to resolve secret before you could purchase it. This is a secret transaction that you're involved in.
The purchase itself is an unlisted action for secret purposes. It's not, the purchase is an unlisted action. I can give you the case there if you want.
I love the case.
Okay, well, I'll give you my card afterwards and we can talk. We don't know yet what we can develop or what we can't develop, so we can't even make a determination if this is a type 1. Well, the full development is a type 1 or not. I mean, we need this 90 days to figure out what exactly we can develop.
But it's an unlisted.
The purchase is an unlisted.
Okay, well, you have to do much of the same process as a type 1 and an unlisted.
Well, so we have our engineering firm filling out a part 1 of the environmental assessment form at the moment.
Please, if you'd like to come back up to the podium.
I want to go home. I'm just texting me the dinner.
I really felt like everyone was having a nice time, so you're on dates.
There's a guy.
Hi, my name is Rob Foley. I live at 132 Washington Street. And I've made one of few in this room that has had the pleasure of being took the schooling, the Citizen School. Citizen Police Academy. The Citizen Police Academy. So we had tours of the facility, and what everyone says is very true. It is very outdated, very not in the best interest of our community to keep that facility going. And I think that most people here will applaud the fact that they do need a better facility. I think what everyone here is in disagreement is 2.6 or 2.8 million for 7 acres. Only 2 of them right now. We're trying to assess if the other 4 or 5 are going to be usable. That's part of it. And so it just makes me think, and I'm trying to understand of all the different parcels that you guys have looked at that are 7 acres that will include the 4 that is needed for the police. And if you're going to do 4 for the police, you might as well just do the other and sell this. And now this sells for $1 million, you're at 1.6 just for the land. Some of my questions is, did you look at or have you talked to the Fayetteville Senior Center, see if they wanted to flip? They come here, you go there. There would probably be a total. There's another piece of property coming into next to Perry Springs. It is, the entrance to that is through two residential houses. Not sure if you can use it, but I mean, if you get out there and look, I think you can find 7 acres at a lot less for price than what that one is. I got it, you get the wetlands, you get some parks, trails, you get some trails. I just, with everything that we've talked about, all the questions that have been raised, it would be nice to have a follow-up meeting in 30 days to see if we can get some of these questions that many of your residents, your voters have asked you answered onto the website. And so then we can discuss some of those questions and answers, so we don't get a little back and forth. This won't have to go to a vote, because as of right now, the vote sounds like a pretty good idea. But in all due respect to the police department, they truly do need a upgrade. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm just wondering, the letters that were written in for constituents for the meeting, can they be posted on the site also so people can read them?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So, just two quick comments. This lady is probably very correct about the laborious process of trying to get environmental projects through various agencies and approvals. And it's unlikely that any requisite approvals could be obtained within that 90-day due diligence period. So what she was suggesting is the contract she's seen provides for that by having, in essence, an extension with possible additional deposit or whatever. What I was saying before was that if that 90-day period was about to elapse, it might require, and the town was not satisfied, still not satisfied, still didn't have the requisite studies that thought it needed. You would have to go to the seller and request an extension of that 90-day period, hopefully without payment of additional consideration, additional deposit, or whatever. There's nothing in the contract that would obligate the seller to provide that extension beyond the 90 days. So the only other thing I'm unclear about is this post-closing site work provision. I've never seen such a provision. It says following closing, buyer agrees and acknowledges that it will provide a letter agreement outlining commencement of site work and construction to the property for its planned improvements to the project within 30 business days after the date of closing. What? I mean, it sounds as if the town has to have an actual project locked up almost, as far as what they propose to put on the property, and to send a letter after the closing within 30 business days stating what the timetable would be. But what happens if the town does not do that? Is there a default? What if the town defaults, it doesn't provide that letter?
We're still in the processes of trying to negotiate this out, so I don't think that provision is.
I mean, the deal is closed. The deal is closed, so.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So they had proposed what you had mentioned earlier, and then we went back to them and took it out completely, and we said, we don't want post-closing obligations. This is what they've come back with. So we're still, there's still volleying back and forth on this.
It's a mysterious, it's a very mysterious provision that it seems to put a burden on the buyer that ordinarily would not be the case. So anyway.
Did you come to the questions?
Just one final comment that I'd like to echo. I think it's irresponsible to have the seller and the buyer represented by the same attorney. And I think you said that you voted in an exception for that rule. I think you should. The town needs its own attorney to review this. What's that? Kathy Steckel. I live in Manlius.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
Be coming back up?
So again, my name's Mary Chesky, the Village of Fayetteville. So if the contract isn't already done deal, you just gotta sign it. Can this be left open? I know it's been a very long process, but can public hearing be left open? You're not gonna vote on this tonight, are you? So can you leave the public hearing open so people can then, not me, because I don't know anything about
We're
contracts.
leaving it open.
You've already decided that? Okay.
Something really quick that I want you guys to throw around in the back of your heads. Okay, number one, I grew up here in this village, and I've lived on North Burger Street for 21 years. I walked through 4 foot of water down there, so people talk about the floods. I walked through 4 foot of water into my house. Sir, I remember when you got flooded out down there too, what he was talking about. So you know, ask yourselves, I mean, if you had to try to take, how many times did he try to have something built there? The projects, all the projects, even in the village, both sides of that culvert. You got the floodway down here, people are talking about wetlands. When they're talking about building this, I think you're talking about the strip rate, huh?
It's the floodway.
Yeah, it's rated the floodway. You know, so, you know, Sarah, that there was that project right next door to me. They donated that property to the village, come off the tax roll, so the village is sitting there now. But I almost lost my point here. They came in, they had 2 engineers come in. They had the village engineer and they brought in an engineer. Thing is, it's a floodway. You're an attorney, look this up. Zero rise. It's a zero rise floodway. You cannot develop there, no matter what you want to do. You try to sneak it in or anything, the Corps of Engineers been down there hundreds of times. FEMA's been down there, DEC's been down there, everybody's been there. There's been about 15, 20 other projects ahead of you guys. It's not gonna work, it's not gonna happen. You know, a zero rise is zero rise. Somebody bought the piece of property, and I'm sorry, Shattuck, same thing happened to Shattuck. That piece of land sitting there, they cut all the freaking trees down, now they filled it in, so now the flood water is going somewhere else that was sitting there. You know, there's something wrong with it, the property's haunted or something. I mean, you have no idea what that is. There's 2 houses down there on Burger Street, it has a basement, mine and Fiata's next door, and he's selling his. Everybody else down there, they're on slabs. You know, and until you have to walk through, pardon me?
You can see the water.
So a crawl space or slab, it doesn't matter. Every village is on, and it's not just us. It's not just us. You guys gotta stop and think. That floodway runs all the way to Oneida Lake. I plowed Minot Road. I've seen both sides of Minot Road. 290, you think it floods there? It comes up, floods 290. It floods Minot Road over the other side too. It comes right between there and it floods Minot Road. It floods Chefs. It floods North Manlius. It's not just the people here in the village or along, it's everybody who lives along that creek. You know, so I mean, we gotta, you know, think about it, you know.
So with that, I would ask the board to keep this session open and move on to the agenda.
So I would like to say thank you to everyone that showed up tonight and shared their thoughts and ideas. For me, as a newer town council member, it was extremely helpful to hear your perspectives. That's what we're here to do. So thank you for taking the time and sharing your thoughts.
And I would like, there was one thing that has crossed my mind several times, so I do want to say this. I think it sounds like everyone's on the same page with that we need a new police station. Like, I didn't hear anyone come here and say, no, the police are fine where they are. Right, that's correct, we didn't hear
They
that.
do need a police station.
We need a new police station. Everyone's on the same page, great. The staff in this building is not acceptable, their working conditions here. So I would be remiss if I didn't advocate in front of all of you this evening for our employees that work in this building too. We have security risks here. Our town manager was put in a very precarious position when someone entered her office. And I won't go into the details of that event, but it was a major security threat. We've had individuals that were very frustrated with the town board and the staff inside the town hall, who, and this was on the news, who were arrested for trying to steal weapons from the front porch of a licensed federal arms dealer. And his intent, we don't know, but that was a really scary day for all of us, and that was very recent. That whether or not you care about environmental sustainability is completely up to you, but this building needs energy, and to retrofit it would be extremely expensive. It's not just about patching the roof, and it's easy to say, well, why did you maintain the building? Most of the members here have been on the board for less than 4 years, and a couple have been on for less than 2, and a couple have been on for just a couple months. So we got up to speed as quickly as we could, declared a state of emergency in 2020, just a couple months into our term for John and myself. And that we were a little bit preoccupied with that, as I'm sure everyone here could understand. So we've listened to the concerns of the employees here, as well as our police department. This isn't just like a wish list, as it was expressed. This is us advocating for the employees who don't just work, they don't work for us, they work for you. And so we're trying to help them to have a building that's safe, that is workable, where they can come in and do the jobs that they're doing for the people of the town. And it's not just the police department that needs that, it's everyone inside this building as well. So I hope that in being cognizant of the needs of our police department, we can also keep in mind that there are a lot of people who work here who matter also.
To echo what she's saying, it's our town hall staff, it's not us, it's the town hall staff that works in this building that keeps our town running, along with our highway department as well, but it's the people that work in this building every day that keeps this town running, not us. It's them, they need to have decent facilities.
And they're coming to us and telling us they need this, we're advocating, like like Peggy said when she first spoke, for those of you who were here at the beginning, the town hall would be a community benefit. There would be a lot, and whether or not you agree with this purchase, whether or not you agree with this site, whether or not you agree with the terms, that's all beside the point. It would be a community benefit, whether we end up going with this project here or we end up on a different site. But it's not, the community benefit is not the primary reason we're doing this. It's to support, as Mr. Theobald mentioned, this is a business and these are the employees of the business. And we're trying to invest in the business of the town of Manlius by building a facility that will work not just for the police department, but for everyone in the town. And those are the people that work for you. Those are the people who you're paying your taxes to when you come in. And I know your taxes are high, but the people who are collecting your taxes, they deserve a safe, healthy, workable building to come to work in every day. I didn't mean to.
I agree with what you're saying. Every employee deserves a safe place to work. But if you're gonna develop a piece of property that's gonna jeopardize the properties around it, that's wrong. That's wrong. I worked hard for my home. The neighbors worked hard for their home. To build something within a floodway that's gonna jeopardize properties around the area, that's not right either.
So that's why we're having our town engineers take a look at this and tell us whether or not it's true.
My name is Nick Sifra. I'm a CPA. I'm a 41-year resident of the town of Manlius. I live in Fayette Manor, Glen Eagle, and now I live on Mott Road on the 92 side. 5 acres. I sold you 2.7 acres. I don't think anybody's against the issue of the police department. I mean, everyone is for that, and everyone can see that that fits. It's a long time coming. I think the issue is this land that we're talking about. And put a number in front of us as it relates to this building. It's not zero to fix it. Is it 30 million? I don't think it's 30 million. So what is it? Is it 5 million?
We're taking proposals right now to come up with that.
I think that's an important number to put in front of us.
That's what I was referring to earlier.
I think that's what the people are asking for. Okay? What are the options?
Thank you.
I know you're disappointed because you hadn't heard.
I was shocked, we've been waiting, we think the best for last.
And I listened, and one of the things that hasn't been said that occurred to me as this conversation went on is it seems that part of the problem, or at least part of the complication of the problem, is that you seem to have to want to consolidate everything in one facility, which seems to stretch the problem of the one Burdick Street property And so I guess the question I'd ask both to the chief and to all of you, is it really essential that the police department and other facilities for the town all be consolidated in one site? If that is so, that makes obviously the land acquisition larger and, you know, the availability of a suitable site more difficult. However, if those two or however many were split into multiple parcels, that may make their acquisition easier and perhaps, you know, the police department's been operating for 40 years without being centrally located. I know the facilities are substandard, I guess is Penny's way of saying it. But do you have to be in the town center in order to operate efficiently? And that's separate from the need to, you know, repair, revise, bring into compliance a facility for the rest of the town functions. So that's what has occurred to me in this conversation.
So I know we have 2 letters to be read and then pause comments.
First letter, my name is Claire Nadir. I reside at 8384 Woodbox Road in Manlius. I would like to disclose that my husband is John Deere, the town of Manlius supervisor. I'm writing to express my strong support for the land purchase agreement and the construction of a new municipal building. Over the past few years, I have routinely visited other municipal buildings throughout the county. And I must say that the town of Manlius Town Hall is among the worst facilities I have encountered. During a previous town board meeting, I was shocked by the accounts of town employees enduring cold days when the heating failed, dealing with leaky roofs requiring buckets, working in cramped spaces, and facing significant security concerns. One major issue that concerns me is the non-compliance of the current town hall with ADA standards. Recently, in my professional capacity, we held an event in the town boardroom and experienced firsthand how challenging the layout and accessibility of the town hall can be. With a degree in health science and disability studies, I have been taught to put myself in other shoes to understand their experiences. Imagine this: you're coming to town hall to see the town clerk, the receiver of taxes, attend an event or a meeting. If you are in a wheelchair or temporarily using crutches and the parking lot in front is full, you have to park in the back. To access the services you need, you must navigate stairs either indoors or outdoors. Without someone to assist you, you must call staff inside the building for help. Consequently, town hall employees have to go up and down the stairs to assist you. This is an unacceptable situation. Some could argue that retrofitting the existing facilities is a better option, but given the impending need for a new facility, we'd be just kicking the can down the road for a future administration. Now consider attending a town board meeting. You would be able to enter the room because it is up a flight of stairs from the back parking lot. While meetings are live streamed, allowing participation from home, this arrangement has its limitations. The sound quality, although adequate, can be significantly improved with better equipment and more suitable layout, which the current boardroom cannot accommodate. The most alarming discovery was the state of the police department building. I urge everyone to visit the town website, look at the building presentation, and see the pictures of the police department. It is housed in an old elementary school intended as a temporary solution in 1985. Nearly 40 years later, one of the best police departments in the area operates in this cramped and unsafe temporary facility due to lack of space. The police department uses storage containers in the parking lot, which is not secure. Moreover, relocating the Manlius Police Department from the southern part of the town to a more central location will reduce response times, especially for residents in the northern part of the town. Please vote yes on this land purchase agreement. Investing in a new town hall facility is an investment in its employees and the residents of the Manlius for generations to come. We deserve a government that is responsive to our needs, and this is undoubtedly a critical need for our community. The second one was submitted by Christopher Bollinger of Fayetteville. Questions for the town of Manlius board. Isn't there an additional expense to build in a flood zone? Is it just under $360,000 per acre a reasonable price? Why not add to the existing building? Has a feasibility study been completed for this project? Will this project be put to a vote by the constituents? Can this project move forward without being put to a vote? What is the projected cost for this project? What other land purchases have been considered? Could $10,000 per month rent for police space be renegotiated? Did the traffic study consider the Route 5 and Burdick Street intersection at rush hour? With the current limited demand for commercial property, what are the plans for the existing town offices? Has the already exorbitant tax burden of the town of Manlius residents been considered? The clerk's office did receive several other correspondence that they wanted to put on record, which I will post in the clerk highlights. There was 2 requesting further information, a Matt Dabrowski, Elaine Blyer. Opposed was a Lisa Garofolo, Phil Latessa, James Galvin, Mary Kapinski, Bob Alexander. And then in favor, we received from a Ryan Simpson, a Jade Pomelis, a Jody Cahill Pomelis, and a Kevin Holmquist. Again, I'll get these posted in the town clerk highlights.
Last comment for this week.
I'm Ann Messenger. I live in Manlius on Brickyard Falls Road. And like this gentleman in the suspenders, I want to go home too. A few things that have occurred to me over this meeting. I could not wait to come to this meeting, and it's been way more interesting than I ever anticipated. I did read the comprehensive plan, the latest one. I was very impressed with the level of participation over time. And I know it was for land use, not for this building. I came here tonight with my mind set, maybe on what I thought I wanted, especially for the police department. Maybe I'm now more on the fence. I'm reading my notes. John, I didn't know about the number of properties you looked at. Thanks for all of that work. I am going to encourage you to set up an ad hoc committee. I'm exhausted by the time you put into this, but I'm very impressed with so many knowledgeable people in the room. Cheryl, I couldn't hear either a lot of what was going on, so I second her motion. But the man in the blue shirt, I couldn't hear your name. I was so impressed with you. I'm now thinking of you as the contracts lady. I don't know your name either, but I was so impressed with you. There are ways you can vet candidates for an ad hoc committee. Not just bring them all down, but there are ways you can vet them to get a well-rounded, knowledgeable team with diverse experience on that committee. I think it would be well worth your while. And Caitlin, I'm seconding Dave's motion for a charrette. They're very cool. They're great vehicles for education and communications. Thanks for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so we will pause the public hearing and move on to agenda item 4, which we did previously. So as we had discussed last meeting, which was presented to us by some members of the school committee, there was a proposal for a $1,500.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for coming.
And I did Google charrette, it turns out, you know, we're gonna use it. Yeah, I know.
I'll watch the rest of this thing.
You are amazing. Thank you very much. I haven't even asked. I was asking you tonight, why don't you care?
I know.
That's a bad part.
We will go through the rest of the meeting. Thank you for sticking with us. Okay, so next up, we have the proposal from Total Aquatic Program LLC for the development of an enterprise plan for the proposed community pool. This was presented to us last time. The board had asked, obviously, to see the agreement ahead of time. Everyone's had that for 2 weeks now. So I know in the previous finance committee discussion, we have discussed ARPA funds to fund this project. And
To fund the study.
the study. The $1,500 for the study. And again, we're working, the pool committee is working on both a survey to go out to the community to gauge interest. And also we're gonna be having a grant writing team to leverage the study to hopefully find some planning grant that will then fund the design and all that fun part of the project. So any questions from the board?
Payment in the amount of $1,500 for the water program LLC for the development of an enterprise plan for the proposed community pool.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have a long list, a fantastically long list of summer rec staff to approve here. This is on the agenda, there's a number of names there, just not to anything before we.
The good news is that they were able to add additional WSIs this year, so they were able to add additional swim classes, which is unheard of. They were very excited for that. What's WSIs? Water safety.
Yeah.
Everyone fast, right? That was like a pop quiz in there, so I'm clear, but yeah. So, and they were able to come in so far with the salary because they were under budget.
That's great.
Yes.
So those are motions.
Motion to approve the 2024 recreation staff as presented.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Next up, so we have a FM school bus lease. This is for our summer playground program. What is on the current version of the agenda is the version of the contract that has some comments from our attorney. Given the timeline to get this approved, with the school has already approved the contract that was sent over. While we had some very basic concerns, the understanding is this is a contract we've signed many times before. It's a very simple understanding of being able to use the bus for a summer program. So while we do have a copy of it with comments on the agenda, because we didn't hear back from the school in time, I'm going to be asking if we could adopt it as it was presented originally without the comments, with the understanding that the school has received our comments. And when we go to sign the same contract next year, we will have the request that we have. So, any questions?
So the one that we looked at. Comments.
Yeah, so we would be looking to adopt this just without those comments as it was presented, authorized by the superintendent.
I'm willing to say I'm comfortable with that as well.
That's good, because I've been with them for several years too. So with that, I would like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the town of Manlius bus lease summer program agreement between Big Manlius School District and the town of Manlius Recreation Department as approved by the Big Manlius School District.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
We're seeing it. Everybody else is in favor, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up.
Yeah, I was just thought, Joe, I mean, obviously, we would prefer your language in it, but in the absence of those adjustments, as presented and as repeated year after year after year, there's still to each other.
I couldn't hear what you said, I'm
I
sorry.
said, I mean, we retain the right to sue each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is a better agreement with your adjustments, but without it, it's still.
They weren't critical, they were just preferred, so, exactly.
Okay, next up, our employee assistance plan renewal. This is a great program. We've been using it for many years. I believe the terms are all pretty much the same as it were. Something that we enjoy. It's a great service to the employees.
And I always ask you the same question every year. How many people use the EAP program?
I will get you the report. We request one actually, just to get one to the police department for their Julia, I can get you a user report. And just one, we haven't met.
Yes.
I know it's one amendment, but it is the trauma response. There was one for the town hall highway side and also one for the police department. So that I did clarify with that.
So yeah, we just,
Just.
we'll say it as,
next.
yeah, as an. Any questions on that?
Make a motion to approve the employee assistance program agreement between the town of Manlius and Employee Services LLC, DBA ESI Employee Assistance Group effective July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 as amended.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, well, carries. Next up, so we had looked at procurement policy, I want to say twice this year, prior to tonight. I know, a couple of councils worked with our comptroller here, to get a pretty significant and robust set of additions to this. Has everyone had an opportunity to review this? Or does anyone have any questions on this?
One of the biggest, or one of the significant changes in there is that we added preferred sources in there for that in the bid form, which is like if you are for the blind or for the not doing cash in there and things like that, the board craft. So that's not efficient. That's allowed. For state highways, 162.
So we approve our procurement policy every year, but when we read it, this year we realized it was maybe didn't reflect everything on it. So this is an amendment that will then be approved every January thereafter until we change the guidance.
Well, I will say, one thing that I'm just gonna announce, the professional services piece, about how while as a town, we are not required to bid out professional services, the commitment that we've been making year after year to rebid professional services and see if we're getting the best of possible. But I know that was an addition.
Yeah, we made that a little more clear in there as well. Which is nice for me because we don't bid professional services.
So I would entertain a motion if people are comfortable.
Motion to approve the internal procurement policy as presented.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Marie did a very good job right
We have the boardroom furniture, so I know we've been discussing this, 40 chairs to replace these pink chairs. I think we have a room full, I'm sure we have plenty of people. And then that, we also are looking at, 12, executive chairs, and as well as 8 tables, I think is where we landed.
Yeah, so we have the proposal before you is for the medium price tables and chairs. So the tables are the 30-inch tables at $351.84 each, and the chairs are 12 chairs at $218.68 each, which is less than the first approval that we had, but more than the super cheap amount. So we're hoping that in the middle is a good enough place for that. So it'll be 12 chairs and 8 tables, and then 40 of the resident chairs. So if people are comfortable with that, I do not really do that. That's all right. I will have to amend the minutes to read exactly what it says, but I don't get that from me. It's like 7,000 something for this, for the first one, and then it's 10,000 for the chairs. They don't have anything first one. All right. I'm getting this for you this year.
Wait, what's the question? So the chairs, the total for the 40 chairs was 10,303.28.
I just found it.
Oh, so you got it.
And then the other stuff is 7,000 something.
269.
Let me be adding this together.
7,269.39.
7,269.39. Plus what, 10,000 what?
10,303.28.
17,572.64.
17,000.
572.69. 726.29.
So I will make a motion to, which is not, so I'll make a motion to purchase 8 tables, 12 big chairs, 40 small chairs for $17,572.60 from S. Legal Furniture.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I want to thank this table for service. I imagine it is hard to listen to your replacement being purchased while you're doing this.
And to clarify, this is being used in the town board improvements fund of ARPA that we had previously set aside.
Yeah, I think the rest of that is, we're gonna try to. Okay, so next up, we have approval of minutes from June 12th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 12th, 2024.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Same. Last up, approval of abstract number 12.
Extra number 12, we have $441,049.86.
Was the big winner, Sarah?
The big man was paving. We weren't paving that year.
Paving's good. I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so I know, Councilor Taliano is one last step.
So we received a letter from a concerned citizen about signs that are being posted on utility poles that was sent to our code enforcement officer as well.
And a couple counselors, but not all. I got one.
I didn't know it. Yeah. People who knew, I don't know.
I thought it was Alice, but.
Maybe try.
So per our code, it is illegal for these signs to be posted on certain areas, and it is being requested of us to support our code enforcement officer in the removal of these signs. So I'm asking our town board how our feelings are on this. Do we want to support our code enforcement officer with the removal of these signs, or do we be calling the businesses up, asking them to remove them within 30 days, and if not, go spend a day around, going around town to remove them, or do we not want to spend time to do that?
So this is the issue where we have a procedure that we have to follow, we can't take down something, we have to give notice and everything.
I think it's the litter. I mean, I've spoken to our town attorney about it, I've spoken to town about it as well to see where there was a need, was basically, I think it was awful.
Wait, so the question is that they're posting signs on
We dash over to
Well, say that any of the signs would say that you're, or say that like, the right of way, buying houses, gutters,
People doing clean gutters, but
all those nuisances.
they're in our right of way.
And I will say too, at the time I've been supervisor, I probably talked to 20 residents who have made a complaint about this. So the question for us is, do we think it's worth having Tom enforce what's in the books?
Yes.
If the answer to that is no, we should probably change what's in the books.
Correct.
But it is an arduous process, but the goal is to receive the people that are putting them, let them know that they're, violating the town code. And, there may be potential after we go through this process that maybe we consider, adjusting the process.
You may learn something from it.
Yeah, I know Mike Jones is doing this in the villages of Hickory already.
Oh.
I think it makes sense to uphold the codes as they're written, and then we can evaluate in the future. I have seen them, and I also agree that with the correct stone on favor of the.
So the issue is that he maybe our procedure is that he's obliged to call all these people before he just goes around his process.
That is definitely going to change. It should be proposed that.
He should just say.
So let's do this, I would just, I guess, ask for a motion to support our enforcement officer in removing these nuisance signs.
Is it needed? I mean.
It's not, but just so that he.
Just so he knows that.
This is what I will support.
In minutes, as we make.
He gets very angry calls from these folks, and they're very, and so, well, I'm not gonna vote him, fire for doing the job that we charge him with. I support him wholeheartedly, so on the proclamation, or just anybody like to make that motion?
So.
Well, so,
There we go, Caitlin and Mike second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Well, why don't we just do like a public information
I
blast
think we
on
should
our
do that.
website?
Yeah.
Remind people what they should be doing there.
Okay, could
That's
you do
free.
that?
There's a reason you sat here all night, Sam.
Post on social media saying it's illegal or against the code to post. So many words.
It's
My words will be better tomorrow.
Section 155 dash 26. No, for the word section, for the
Okay,
word section.
absolutely.
It's like 155-26, I think it's.
Can one of you guys that got that letter, just give me a copy of the letter? Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
All those in favor?